Hey everyone, this is Dylan.
And this is Fortune,
And
also known as a Restless Mind on YouTube.
and welcome to episode 15 of Cinescussion, our top 10 list for everything we saw in 2021 and all the things we didn't have a
Yeah.
chance to see.
Yes, this is true because I think I mentioned this on the last podcast to you, or I mentioned it to you on the phone. 2021 was a weird year where I didn't get to see as many films as I would have liked, but I actually got to see quite a few films, but most of them weren't new films. I spent a lot of this year watching a lot of classics that were on my list that I had never gotten to see. So I've
Yeah.
actually caught up a lot on that list though. So it was a very good year for movies. I was delving into the past quite a bit.
We both did a lot of that. And then when we were talking
Yeah.
about doing this and I started making my top 10 list, this was a couple weeks ago when we really started digging in. I was like, did I even see that many movies this year? And as I thought about it and like revisited IMDb and like went through all the lists, I was like, okay, I did see a lot of movies this year. It took me a
Yeah.
while to rank them.
Yeah, and I realized that like nowadays movies and television are interchangeable in terms of quality. Like some shows are even better. So I don't even do like top 10 film lists. I now do like a top 10 film projects. So like some might be
Yep.
shows, like because or miniseries because there's just so many there's just so much great content all over it. Like the landscape has drastically changed. So I had
Yep.
to kind of adjust.
I joined you on that. I also included some shows, some non-traditional films. So I'm really excited to hear.
I know
Really,
what one of yours is. I'm pretty
but you
sure I
know what
know what one
9
of.
more are.
No, no.
Also, disclaimer: I got my booster shot early this afternoon, and I'm definitely feeling the fatigue and the slight cough. So if my voice sounds a little funny or I seem a little low energy, that would be why. But we'll be over that in a couple days.
So don't worry, guys. It's not like the official COVID. It's the what's the word I'm looking for? The voluntary COVID.
Right, exactly. Voluntary. I'll take it. So I know that before we like dive into our top 10, we have some honorable mentions, but I also created um a quick or not so quick list of things that I really wanted to see this year that I
Okay.
didn't have a chance to.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if you have a few you
I
probably have a few as well.
I had quite a few, but I only listed 3 for this. But I have more, but it would take forever because, like I said, I did more classics this year, so
Yeah,
I
what are
have
your
some
three that you
catching up.
missed?
I missed Last Night in Soho. I'm a huge Edgar Wright fan, so I really, really want to see that one, and it is available on Prime, I believe now. So I will probably watch it within the next
Sweet.
week or two. Judas and the Black Messiah was one of the ones that I was really looking forward to. I liked Daniel Kaluuya,
Mm-hmm.
and I also love Lakeith Stanfield. He's great, just great actors, and I'm told it was fantastic. The other one was The Power of Dog. I know the director is really well known for her work. I haven't actually seen her work. I'm just a big Benedict Cumberbatch fan, and I also Kirsten Dunst. I feel like over time, she doesn't just do romantic comedy. It seems like in the last like 7 years or so, she's been doing a lot more just like dramas and kind of whether the movie's good or not, she kind of kills it. She's pretty great.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, she's really. I mean, I don't want to say she's grown on me because you can laugh at me. I loved Bring It On. I still think that movie's fun.
Yeah, that movie was fun.
Yeah, she's a good actor. So like, I thought that it would be really interesting to see Benedict Cumberbatch and her together in a film. Like, so I'm looking forward to see that.
Yeah, awesome. I had literally like 15. So I'm just going to ramble through them. I'm not going to get too lost in them,
Okay.
but I hear
Yeah.
all of these are good or maybe even great.
Okay.
And I wanted to see them, but I didn't get a chance.
And these are the ones you didn't get a chance to see, right?
Yep, totally. And
Okay.
I even organized them so I could be quick. There were a couple
Gotcha.
animes on my list I didn't get to watch.
Mhm.
Evangelion 3. I really wanted to watch it. I know it's on Prime. I just didn't see the second one. Didn't have a chance to watch through the other two.
Gotcha.
Demon Hunter, Mugen Train. I started the
Great.
show. I
It
haven't
was so
finished
good.
it.
Oh, I
So
forgot about Demon Hunter. Oh
yeah,
crap.
I haven't finished the show, so I didn't watch the movie.
No,
There are a
but
few
it was great.
musicals that I wanted to see. I wanted to see In the Heights. I just didn't prioritize it. I wanted to see West Side Story because Steven Spielberg is out here still making
Yeah.
movies, and I wanted to see Tick Tick Boom because
Tick
Andrew
Tick Boom was
Garfield
great.
is great. Yep.
It was one of my
Um,
honorable mentions, actually, now that I think about it.
Very nice. Couple animations I wanted to see. I wanted to see Encanto, and I wanted to see Raya and the Last Dragon. Didn't get a chance.
Yes,
Womp womp.
yes. I didn't get to
Um,
see Encanto.
you didn't get to see Encanto either. Okay.
No, I want to see that one.
A couple other things. This one's also kind of animation, but stop motion. I really wanted to see Mad God. 30-year. I can't remember the director, but one of the stop motion masters took 30 years to make it his life's work. It's called Mad God. Apparently, it's weird and crazy
Wow.
and scary and out of control.
I actually haven't even heard of this. Now I need to do some research. Mad God. I'm gonna write that
Yep.
down.
I really want to see
It's not
Red
the same. It's not the same guy that did Anomalisa, is it?
I don't believe so. No, no, no.
Okay, okay.
Uh, I hear you typing over there. Look up his name one more time for me. It's Phil Tippett.
Mad,
Phil Tippett made it. Um,
Mad God movie.
yeah,
I
if you look
haven't
at,
even heard of this.
he
Wow, I'm
did
so
like the
sorry.
visual effects for like Jurassic Park, RoboCop. Like he helped out on Star Wars,
Oh,
Starship Troopers. He's been working on this project like his entire life.
dude, this
Um,
looks cool too.
yep. I really wanted to see Red Rocket. I really wanted to see Macbeth.
Hmm.
And Joaquin Phoenix put out a movie this year that I haven't had a chance to see yet. He's my favorite living actor still, and that's Come On, Come On. I'll get around to that soon.
Ah, yeah.
A few foreign films, Drive My Car, really wanted to see it, Memoria, and This Is Not a Burial, It's a Resurrection. Also, there's a
Huh.
Mads Mikkelsen movie came out that looks like this revenge drama, but I've heard that it goes a little deeper. It's called Riders of Justice. Looks like the trailer made it look like it could be like a Liam Neeson, like gonna catch him kind of movie, but it looks pretty cool.
Now that Liam Neeson is retired,
Yeah,
time for Mad Mikkelsen.
exactly.
Taken
Um,
5.
and then there were two shows on my list that I'm really excited to watch. I really wanted to watch Hellbound, which
Oh
is
yeah,
a
yeah.
Korean drama on Netflix. So
The Korean
angels and
one, yeah.
demons are dragging people all sorts of
Yeah.
places.
I heard it's wild. A couple people at work saw it. Said
Yep.
it was wild.
And then I really wanted to see Yellow Jackets. I've heard a lot of really exciting buzz about
Yeah,
that new horror show. So
I've
super
heard
into
about
that.
that too.
That's my big list of things that I really wanted to see, but I haven't been
Good
able to find
list.
the time.
Good
Thank you.
list. Okay, so now I think we're also, before we give you our top tens, we want to give you some honorable mentions. These are films or film projects that we liked, um, but they just barely didn't make the list, but we thought they were good and we enjoyed them.
Mm-hmm.
So my list of honorable mentions, number one is Pig. I
All
actually
right.
liked Pig. I liked Pig quite a bit.
Yep.
It wasn't the top 10 for me, but it was very good. It was very well made. I think you had mentioned it was the director's first time directing. I
Mm-hmm.
believe you had said. It was a very solid direction. It seemed like the movie knew what it wanted to be. I'd say I'm surprised it's his first film. It didn't
Mm-hmm.
like blow me away, but it felt very like he had made a few movies already, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And the story went in places that I kind of expected just because I like to cook. So when his pig goes missing, and there's a spot where in the trailer where it mentions that like there's some cooking involved, I'm like, is it a truffle pig? Like that was kind
Right.
of my thought. So
Yep.
where it ends up going in the final moment with the guy and a certain meal that's made though, oh, that was beautiful. I loved that.
Mm-hmm.
Afterlife, I found that recently. I love this show. It technically, I guess it isn't this year. The third season came out this year, but I just found it, so I added it to the list because I think it's fantastic. It's Ricky Gervais. It's another show of his where he's the lead, but he writes it all too, and it's just very good, very deep. He tackles death and um, um, guilt and grieving very honestly from a very specific perspective, which I think is great. At least that's the first season. I don't know where it goes after that.
Mm-hmm.
Another honorable mention for me was this film with homegirl that I love from Gone Girl, Rosamund Pike. It was called I Care a Lot.
That was a good movie. I watched
Yeah,
that.
and
Yeah.
and this is the film I was telling you where it almost might have been like number 10, except I feel like the ending copped out a little bit
Yeah.
because she's monstrous and I would almost expect her to get away with it. And here's the thing, I took care of my grandfather for like 7 or 8 years before he died. So within the first 30 minutes, she played her part so well that I have rarely hated a character
She
more than
was.
I hated her. Like, and
Uh,
she played it so well that I was actually like, my skin was crawling. I was so angry because she's taking advantage of seniors and I took care of my grandfather. So for some reason it's almost like I took it personally, but the
yeah.
fact that she made me hate her so much, I was like, this is so good.
Yeah.
My only issue with the movie is I feel like the ending felt like a kind of a cop out. It's like this perfect wrap up and karma's a thing, and you can do that, but I felt like the way it happened just kind of happens really quickly and it's really convenient. It was like my only gripe with the movie.
Yep.
Another one, I thought Dave Chappelle's The Closer was great. I know it is kind of
Yep.
controversial, but I'm a huge Dave Chappelle fan. And whether you agree with it or not, I like the idea of free speech and the fact that people can say what they think. And if you don't like it, that's great. Let's have a conversation. Like I like people who aren't afraid to say what they think. Some people might not like it, some people might. But I like that we're in a place where you can say stuff. And if people don't like it, hey, let's have a conversation about it. It triggers a conversation. I think it's better to have that in a society where you're not allowed to say things because so I think I just kind of like what it represented and kind of what happened afterward. But I also
Hmm.
did find it quite funny. There's moments that are controversial, but there are parts of it that are very funny because they use Dave Chappelle. But yeah, I liked it. Another one of mine was actually Raya and the Last Dragon. I actually
Oh, was
saw it.
it? Oh, you
Yeah,
saw it.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah. I almost made it my number 10. I really loved it.
Yep.
I think Disney kicked some ass with that one. The martial arts choreography was really cool. The action was actually action. Sorry, the acting, voice acting was good. The
Yep.
characters were really great. It did get a tear for me later, which was really nice. Has some great themes. And it's also very different. This kind of like Southeast Asian style. It's very different. Like I like it. I like that we're seeing different stories now, like Encanto and Coco, and like we're seeing stuff that's not all the same, which is great, and it was really fun. The
Yep.
last two of my honorable mentions, I'm sorry, I guess I had more.
Hmm.
One was also Tick Tick Boom. I really enjoyed it,
Very
and
nice.
Andrew Garfield learned to sing for this movie, which was
Yep.
really cool. And then the last one was I haven't seen it, but it's like a horror film called The Night House. I believe that's what it's called. I haven't had a chance to see it yet,
I.
but
Oh
I
wait, you
wanted to see
didn't
that
have a
one.
chance to see that one?
I didn't. I
Okay, I
didn't.
remember that coming out too. I should have put that on my my didn't see list. I wanted to see that too.
Oh yeah,
Um,
okay, yeah. Because I
Very
never got to
cool.
see it. The trailer was kind of interesting. The direction looked interesting, and I
Yeah.
think it just kind of went under the radar. It's like I'd seen a trailer and then I didn't even hear about it coming out, so I didn't, I kind of forgot until recently. So
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So I think the first honorable mention that you said, we totally share it. My honorable mention that I saw that didn't quite make my list, Edgar Wright's Last Night in Soho. I
okay,
really enjoyed it, and earlier in the year, and especially before I went on this like catching up with the movies I didn't see,
yeah,
kind of extravaganza over the past 2 weeks, it would have been on my top 10 list. I don't
gotcha.
think it would have been near the top. I think it was a really fun movie. But it was just kind of lacking in some places that would make it incredibly memorable for me. But as like a great time at the movies, and as an overall story, and Edgar Wright's music choices and his editing, his color palette in the movie was really striking. It was a
Oh
blast.
yeah,
I had a lot of fun with
the trailer seemed very striking.
it. Yep. The Power of the Dog, Benedict Cumberbatch, Kirsten Dunst, amazing performances. A really great movie that explores, what is masculinity and femininity and the American frontier, as well as a lot of classism. I found myself really enjoying the performances. I found myself getting a little drowsy in the middle, unfortunately. But that being
Got it.
said, up there with the most beautiful cinematography I've seen this year. The
Oh
performances
really?
and the
Wow.
look of the movie were stellar. It also has a lot of scenes that are 1000% memorable. Just the overall from beginning to end, lost me a little bit.
Gotcha. Was it more in the middle? Dragged in the middle? It sounds like.
Yeah, it dragged in the middle, and then the climax as well. I could have asked it to be a little less sudden. It didn't. It wasn't like a
Mm.
clean wrap up, but it was like, all right, let's wrap this movie up, kind of,
Oh
and
yeah, I
it's
hate
got
when
to
it
end.
feels that way.
You
I
know what
hate
I
when it
mean?
feels that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Good to know.
Yep. I got a Netflix movie on here that didn't quite make my top 10, but I also liked it a lot. Harder
Ooh.
They Fall by James Samuel.
Yeah, I kind of
Um,
had a feeling you were gonna put that on there.
I
Yeah.
had a blast. We've talked about
Yeah.
this movie quite a bit, and
Yeah.
you're right.
It was
There
fun.
is, I'll get the issues out of the way. The sets feel like sets. Some of the writing is weird, and
Weird. It's like the entire third act is
the entire
predicated
third
on
act
someone.
should have
The
been better
entire
thought out.
third act
But
only works because of some silly mid plot point where someone does something that makes no sense.
that's
Like,
absolutely true.
I
But
can't.
something else.
It is
Jonathan
fun though.
Majors,
Hmm.
Idris Elba, Zazie Beetz, which she probably had my least favorite performance in the movie, but you
Yeah,
could
hers
tell
was the only one I
not
wasn't into.
only is it a visually stunning at moments Western with an all black cast, the entire cast seems like they're having the time of their lives.
They
And
do.
I was having a blast as well, especially James Samuel coming from the music industry and having these weird, funky music choices
Yeah.
throughout the whole movie. Really liked it.
I also loved the train scene with Lakeith Stanfield. I wish I got
Me
more of
too.
that. That scene felt so Tarantino, by the way, like
Yeah.
so Tarantino. Like you could have plucked that from a Tarantino movie, and I would have almost believed you.
Yep. Same thing with the intro to Jonathan Major's character where he's
Yeah,
hunting the guy with the
for,
scorpion across
yeah,
his hand.
for, yeah,
Uh,
100%.
yep.
I actually paused it after the opening and went and looked at who the director was because
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know who this director is, but I just want to know. I was like, okay, I haven't heard of him. I was like, okay, he loves Tarantino. Like after the opening, that was literally what I said. I said it out loud. I was like, this person loves Tarantino. And then the
Yeah.
train scene happens. I'm like, yep.
And totally. And by extension, Sergio Leone,
Oh
Jasmine and I
yeah,
have been watching 60s movies, and we watched Once Upon a Time in the West and Good, the Bad, and
My-
the Ugly back to back.
nice,
It's been fun.
nice. That's my
Um,
favorite Western of all time. Once Upon a Time in the West.
Mine too.
It's my favorite.
Good
Yeah, it's
taste.
awesome. Yeah. Yes, yes, for sure.
Number three. These aren't ordered, but I have three more. Adam McKay, Don't Look Up. Another movie. I have a feeling that's going to be somewhere on your list, but no spoilers, please. Loved the performances, laughed a whole lot. The most memorable part of the whole movie for me was the ending scene, and it stuck the landing, and that was probably my favorite part of it. I loved the messages. If I had
Mhm.
any complaints, and it's hardly a complaint because it's against the intention of the movie. I just, for my taste, sometimes a little more subtlety goes a long way. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah. I
So
get it.
I had a blast with it though. Number two, speaking of movies that aren't subtle at all and contradicting my last point, Cop Shop. um, Cop Shop, and I need to look up who directed this movie because
Cop Shop.
Cop Shop. This was a
What
weird,
the hell?
low budget, like action thriller starring Frank Grillo and Gerard Butler, and I just watched it
Oh,
the other day.
oh! A guy at work wanted me to see it. He said, "Doesn't that trailer look great?" And I saw it. That's the
Yeah.
one where yes, I know what you're talking about. Actually, I know
Yep.
exactly what you're talking
So,
about.
for anyone who doesn't know, and I just looked up the director too, it's directed by Joe Carnahan, who I'm not familiar with,
It gave me
but
like shoot 'em up vibes, even though I never saw that either. Like from the trailer.
it gave me like the movie feels a lot like Smokin' Aces, which is a big guilty
Yeah.
pleasure of
Okay.
mine.
That's a good one.
But the
That's a fun one.
concept is Frank Grillo plays a con man that's on the run. He did a bad thing to some bad people, and he intentionally gets himself put in prison. And one of the assassins who are after him, intentionally gets himself put into the same jail. Well, I guess they're in jail, not prison. And then
Yeah.
there's multiple assassins with different bounties who are after him, and then you just get this crazy mashup of all of these crazy personalities trying to kill each other in a small jail.
Is it all in jail?
It's all in jail. It was super low budget and super fun, and I loved it.
I'm gonna have to, yeah, like, it's funny you just said that, and I forgot that movie existed till now. But yes, I did watch the trailer. It did look fun.
Yep.
It looked wild,
It was
basically.
wild. It was wild. There's
That's
one standout character who is by far my favorite, and I think he'll be your favorite too. That's all I'm gonna say.
okay.
And one that I was actually shocked that this didn't make my top 10 list, and I actually wrote out my top 10 list like 3 times, seeing if it made sense. But I was going by feel, regardless of like how good I thought the movie was. My last honorable mention was Spider-Man: No Way Home. I don't
Hmm.
have a whole lot to say because this movie was so much fun and it gave me so much of what I never thought I'd see again.
Hmm.
The Willem Dafoes, the Alfred
Yeah.
Molinas, the Tobey Maguires, the Andrew Garfields, and
Yeah.
I loved it. There were 10 projects this year that I loved a little more.
No. Yeah. Uh. Well, I just won't say anything. But I'll say all I'll say is it. You'd actually be surprised a couple movies that end up on my list, but a big part of that I did say is there are some films I didn't get a chance to see, and I'm
Yep.
convinced of like the 4 or 5 that I didn't get a chance to see, they probably would have been honorable mentions, but because I haven't seen them, they are on my list. So
Very nice. Well, let's get started, man. I want to hear what your number 10 was. Let's kick off our top 10 lists
my
for
number
2020.
10 was Malcolm and Marie with
Ooh,
Zendaya and was Washington. Oh my God, my mind just went blank. I literally
John
just
David.
had it. John David
Yep.
Washington, Denzel Washington's son. Yes. Really liked it. I expected to like it. I didn't think I'd love it. I loved it. I was very surprised how much I liked it. I liked how visceral. I use that word lately, but it's just perfect. It's very visceral. It's very the fact that it was also a quarantine project is really cool because it feels like you're watching essentially a very good double monologue stage play. Like that's
Yeah.
what it feels like because it's all one location. The group quarantined. They shot it very small crew. It's just 2 actors. Um, and the script is very simple. It's very destructive. It's essentially two people. Something that happens sometimes in relationships when there are problems. It's two people who seem to love each other, but they are tearing each other apart. Like
Yeah.
really is what's happening. So it's very destructive. But I liked I like the fact that it felt very real and not real at the same time. Like it feels very real, but it also feels almost like a play. But
Yes.
I don't know how else to describe it because it's a lot of monologuing. You know, not monologuing. I'm sorry. It's a lot of speeches to each other basically. But essentially the performances were fantastic.
Hmm.
And I also feel like how deep they get with trying to hurt each other
Yeah.
is it's so honest, and it shows how well the two characters, they clearly love each other because they know each other so well, like
Yeah.
like you know what I mean. And they're both very broken people in different ways, but there's just something about that film that I really liked. I just did. So it's my number 10.
Yeah. Very nice.
What
Moment on
is your
Malcolm and
number 10?
Marie. It didn't make it to my list or my honorable mentions, but I liked it a lot too. I really liked David Washington's performance. I loved Zendaya's performance, and the thing that I didn't expect to like so much was the cinematography. I think that movie
Oh
was
dude, yeah,
beautiful, and I think the soundtrack was incredible.
it was.
And I think that movie had a lot of style. I really
It
liked it.
did.
Yeah.
For being so small and simple, like it
Yep.
was handled really well, like
Hmm.
for sure. So
Funny
what is
enough,
your number 10?
my number 10 is also a movie that only has four actors that takes place in one location. And
Hmm.
it was Mass by Fran Kranz.
Ah,
I,
that's another one that's on my list,
yeah.
actually.
Is it? Is that
Yes.
on your list? I just watched it
Yes,
the
I've
other
heard of
day.
that one.
It's on. Did you see it this year?
I have not seen it.
Okay, not on your top 10 list, but like on your list of
No.
movies to watch.
Like when I had said I had more to watch, there's about 8. It's one of the 8, yeah.
Got you. So this was directed by Fran Kranz. I didn't know who Fran Kranz was. I had to look it up. Do you know who Fran Kranz is?
I actually do not know.
Fran Kranz is the stoner character from Cabin in the Woods.
No,
Yeah,
seriously?
yeah, I'm
Are you
serious.
serious?
Yeah,
Dude,
yeah,
go Bong Cup guy. Like for
yeah, yeah,
real. We
exactly.
all love he's like everyone's I don't know a single person that's not their favorite character in
He
that
was
movie.
definitely
Like
the best
that
character in that
he
movie.
was the
So
best character for sure. He was awesome.
here's what I'll say about this movie. It's also the first thing for anybody who is interested in writing or directing movies and feels like they don't have the resources to do something great. This movie takes away those excuses. It's four people in a room, and the entire movie revolves around conversations between these four people. I don't want to go too deep into what they discuss, but I'll say
Yeah.
this is the discussion after a very severe tragedy. And both of these
Uh,
couples, two people on each
yeah.
side, have some sort of relation to that tragedy.
And the
Um,
trailer kind of, if you want to, I'll just say, I'm not trying to cut you off, but I
yeah,
just
yeah.
want to say that if anyone does decide to watch this movie and you don't want to know, do not watch the trailer, because I feel like the
uh,
trailer will make you put certain things together with, I don't want to say,
yeah,
but like I have an idea of what it's about, which is why I put it on my list. I thought it was really interesting. So if you want to be completely no nothing, not spoiled, but not even have an idea of what it's about, don't watch the trailer is what I'll say.
yep.
Because
Um,
yeah.
Okay, I actually haven't even seen the trailer, so
Cool.
lucky
Cool.
me. I will say a couple things about this movie. I think for me, this movie had the strongest performances of the year, pretty much
Nice.
across the board. I think especially Jason Isaacs, who plays one of one of the four characters.
Jason Isaacs is always great.
You know, good old Lucian Malfoy. We all know
Yeah,
Jason
yeah,
Isaacs. Yeah,
exactly.
he is not a villainous presence in this movie, believe it or not.
Oh,
But
sure, sure.
um,
Mr.
but
Potter will always be
he
here to save the
yeah.
day.
This movie has a lot of monologues, and
Mhm.
every character really gets so much to do. I don't even know if there's a specific standout outside of my favorite character in the moments that affected me most coming from first of all Jason Isaacs, and
Mhm.
secondly Ann Dowd. Especially in the final
Oh,
scene of the movie, a conversation comes from Ann Dowd that really comes out of nowhere, and this movie requires a significant emotional investment. Like it really, really puts you through the
yeah,
ringer if you
yeah,
allow it to. Like if you don't close yourself off to what these feelings and kind of the actions that they've experienced could mean.
yeah.
It requires a lot. It's heavy, and I was definitely
Mhm.
kind of in a down mood for a couple hours afterwards. I just kept thinking about
Yeah,
it. But I
yeah,
think in our current time, it's an important film to watch if you are willing to put yourself through that. And I think that um, one of the couples in this movie, it would be very easy to not empathize with. And I think that
Hmm.
this movie gives you every point of view and every human perspective that it can off something that really felt inevitable. That's what I'll say.
Yeah.
It's probably
Yeah,
it's definitely the heaviest movie on my list, but
it,
it was fantastic.
that's probably why I haven't watched it. Like mood, because you know me, I deal
Mm-hmm.
with mood stuff.
Yep.
And like I have to be in the mood to, and I was pretty sure I knew what it was about, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that's one of the reasons why it's on my list, and I plan on watching it, but I do have to be in the right mindset. Like,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
for
Also,
sure.
funny thing about your top 10, I remember being so excited for that when it came out because I was like, wow, we're going to start getting these kind of new kind of film projects that really have to do with kind of a reaction to the pandemic, like what our movies
Yeah,
going to look
for
like
sure.
now. And then
Hmm.
I thought there was only going to be a couple, but here we still
Yeah.
are.
Oh, it's not going to stop. This
Yeah.
psychologically messed with people for like 2 years, and now we're going into not as bad, but things are still kind of
Yep.
mildly quarantined because there's just like I just read an article about BE something that's now another variant, and I'm like, come on. But
No.
I know, yeah, yeah,
Damn.
yeah.
Can
Don't know,
I
yeah.
can I start with my number 9 because it's a great transition.
You actually can because yeah, just go ahead.
Sweet. My number 9 is Inside from Bo Burnham. Um,
Ah, I love that
yeah,
one. That's on my list too.
that's on your list too. I'm excited to see
Yeah.
where it landed for you. But
Okay.
so for me, I think especially for when it came out and watching it when I did, and like it
Hmm.
did for so many people, it really articulated and kind of poked fun, but also empathized with how so many people are feeling right now and what this
Yeah, for sure.
really, really fucking weird, strange time feels like to be like choosing to be inside a lot of the time, but also
Yep.
interconnected through the internet. So it's like you're never like fully unconnected, but you always feel unconnected,
Yeah.
and it's all of these conflicting feelings, and it's people just telling you it's going to be fine all the time, and then you feeling like it's not going to be fine.
Yeah.
And just putting that the way he did was beautiful. It was probably my favorite piece of media, like based on what we're going through right now. It was the most touching
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah, it was very touching. It was also very I can empathize with him a lot, and I've always liked Bo Burnham, and it honestly feels like more Bo Burnham than anything.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this is what he would do. And he did
Mm-hmm.
obviously, and he filmed the entire thing himself. He put it all together. He clearly edited the entire project and put it on Netflix because why not? I'm stuck inside for a year, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
Yep.
it just feels so Bo Burnham. Like the crazy thing is when I saw the trailer, I was like, it's like I'm not even surprised. Like I'm like, yeah, yeah, this is gonna be good, you know. And it's actually quite funny, but I actually find it less funny than his other ones. Even though it's funny, it's more interesting. Like
Yeah.
there is definitely some really funny moments, but it's also interesting, and also I feel like you're also seeing his psychology. You're seeing the depression from time to time. You're seeing, just trying to cope with that isolation. Like there's just so much within the film that it covers that
Hmm.
it's interesting too. And I like the end of it too with the door and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it was a cool way to end it. I was like, yeah, yeah, that's about right.
um, what was your number 9?
So my number 9 was actually Spider-Man No Way Home.
Was it?
Well,
I
because
completely
the
know where you're
truth
coming
is
from, but tell me about
I
it.
didn't expect, even though I like Marvel movies, but I don't love them. But there
Yep.
were actually two Marvel movies uh that came out this year that I actually quite enjoyed. And even though I feel like Spider-Man No Way Home has some issues, like it's still pretty solid. Like they did a pretty good job. It's one of the few movies I feel like some of those movies where Marvel did a pretty decent job. I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. I think Tom Holland's performance was the best it's ever been. There
Yes.
are some cliche moments, sure, but also just the nostalgia of having some of these characters back on screen, like just Doc Ock back on screen, and the Green Goblin. William Dafoe just eats up every minute he's on the screen, and what I love is he was actually in it quite a bit. These weren't just like
Hmm.
cameos where they come and go. And I remember there was a lot of conversation between us about like what we think could be happening from the trailer. And it's funny because we were kind of spot on with
Yeah.
pretty much
Yeah, we
everything.
were.
And the funny thing is, and it didn't hurt the movie that we were spot on because I was saying things that I thought would be cool. So it's hard for me to hate the movie because like some of them actually happened and I thought it was cool. Like I
Yeah.
like that I like that the cameos aren't just because a lot of the things that people do nowadays, even Disney is very guilty of this, is when you have callbacks, that's all it is. It doesn't even really matter. It's just to get a quick, oh, this will get people in the theaters, but they actually made this part of the story, and there's actually development not just for our heroes but
Mm-hmm.
the villains as well. So
Yep.
like I like that there is so much, and it's not just rewriting. It's giving arcs to people who deserve them. Although I feel like once again the Lizard Man gets shafted, just like he did in just like in the movie. It's like no one
Yeah.
gave a shit about the Lizard Man, even in this one. He's just gonna be there. But
Yep.
yeah, writing wise, it has some like serious issues. Like I mean, the Lizard Man. Oh, he just decided to wait in the car. Yeah, like I was literally like, that is so stupid. Like like it's like if this was any other movie, people would be tearing that shit apart. Like it's just because it's Spider-Man. But
Yeah.
it was fun. It was very fun. It's one of those. It's probably one of the Marvel movies I could like Ragnarok. I could watch it again. Like, and
Yes.
I don't say that about a lot of Marvel movies. Most of them, after I see them once, I don't really have much interest in seeing them again because they were okay. But I could watch this one again, and I feel and still feel like I would have a good time with it. And again, I would say Marvel movies probably wouldn't be on my top 10 list if I had seen some of the other ones I wanted to see. But since I didn't, it is there. I found it even more enjoyable than some of the other movies in my honorable mentions. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't expect this, but it was fun. So,
Yeah, it was super
yeah.
fun, and I agree. Tom Holland finally got to be, I hate to say this, but in this character, kind of act his age. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
I
I
know, for
remember,
real,
like in
right?
like
Yeah.
Civil War and the other ones, he'd be running and see Doctor Strange, like, oh my god, is it a wizard? I'm like, dude, you're in high school. Like, you're in high
Yeah,
school. You know what I mean?
I
Like,
know.
age
You're
it up
not
a little
12.
bit.
You're
Exactly.
not 12, you know? Like,
So being able to see that version of Harry Potter, Peter Parker.
he did grow up too, so
Yeah, he
it's
did grow
fine.
up too. Peter Parker. Oh my god, the brain fog.
In case you didn't know, they just announced that Daniel Radcliffe is doing a biopic where he plays Weird Al
Weird
Yankovic.
Al.
By the way, I cannot wait.
Hell
I
yeah.
cannot wait, bro.
But seeing him act as that version of Peter that is always trying to do his best to the detriment of himself, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Is the best
it's
part of
very
the character. And
yeah, it's very much like what he faced in Spider-Man 2.
yeah,
Like, you know, it's adulting, right? It's
yep,
actual adulting, right?
yep,
Like,
exactly. And I'm excited.
for sure.
I don't know if I've ever said this before. I really like how they ended it. I'm excited to
Yeah,
see
it's pretty good.
like having it kind of be this trilogy of an origin story and having him have all this experience, but nobody knows about it is kind of cool. And I'm excited to see how he deals with, no Stark tech. Now he's really just
Yeah.
in the neighborhood and he's going to be dealing with classic villains that
And
affect the neighborhood.
it's a story way of doing a reset
Yeah.
too for him. Yeah, it was cool. Do you mind if I lead into 8 kind of like you did last time? Because I kind of
Yeah.
so my 8 is another Marvel movie actually. It's the Shang-Chi. I liked Shang-Chi a lot.
Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi I actually liked more than Spider-Man. I actually thought it's probably one of my top 5 favorite Marvel films, or top 6. Like I really enjoyed it. I was surprised that I liked it as much as I did. I was excited because the action choreographer Christopher C. Cohen, I've followed him on YouTube for like 8 years, and he's
Mm-hmm.
done these really cool shorts. I even showed you some of them.
Yep.
And he's amazing, and he does this just by himself, like choreography, shooting, everything. And I saw he posted a picture on like his Instagram like a while back, and he was like with the Shang-Chi group, and I'm like, oh my god, you worked on this. And it shows, because if you know his work, like the choreography, this is the best choreography and art action sequences Marvel's probably ever done.
Ever.
And
Easily.
they're on par with like top Chinese martial arts extravaganza films. And Christopher C. Cohen does this stuff all the time, and I can see it's too good. Like it's him. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
another action designer too, but I know Cohen was a huge part of this because I can see it. And the lead guy, I've never heard of him before. He did a great job. Dillon had actually already seen it, and we went and saw it together. And he saved a surprise for me because he knows there are a lot of Hong Kong stars I love. Like I love Donnie Yen, I love Jackie Chan, I love Jet Li, I love Michelle Yao.
Yep.
And when Michelle Yao comes off, I didn't see her anywhere in the trailer, so I was freaking out. I was
Yep.
super excited. I also thought the monstrous dragon thing was kind of terrifying.
Wasn't
Like,
that thing sick?
it was so
I was
cool.
seeing other
Yeah.
reviews and they were like, it's another big monster battle. I was like, no, this one was different. This
I'm
was
like, this
tight.
one was different. This one was actually a cool
Yeah,
one.
this
Like
was
that's the
sick.
different.
Like
Like
this
that's the
was
difference.
sick.
Yeah, it was
Um,
so sick, bro. Like I actually thought it was a lot of fun. This is another one I could watch again. Like
yeah.
I could totally watch again. It's actually Oh, and I've never seen her in anything. I love Aquafina. I love her.
Hmm.
And I realized I had seen her in something. I
What?
had seen The Last Dragon. I didn't realize she plays the voice of the Last Dragon. The dragon.
Oh, I
Yeah,
didn't
the
know that.
actual dragon. I didn't either, but now that I've seen the movie, I was like, her voice sounds so familiar. And then when I went and looked it up online, I'm like, oh, that okay. So I love her in both movies. Like I'm an Aquafina fan now. Like I
Yeah,
like her.
very nice.
She's awesome.
I'm slapping myself because that should have been on my honorable mentions list. There was actually there was two Marvel movies that I saw twice this year. I saw Spider-Man twice. I saw once with you and once with Jasmine, and I saw same thing with Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
And in fact, I probably no, I like Spider-Man a little bit more, but I think Shang-Chi is a better movie.
Yeah.
Not that it, whatever that
No, 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 and that's
means.
what and that's what I tried to do with my list. Like, even if I like something more, what do I think is a better movie? Like, that's why I put Shang Chi above
That's
Spider
so
Man.
funny because I did the exact opposite. I was like,
Yeah,
what is my favorite? Like, it's
yeah,
about
no, no,
me.
but see, I'm weird. I've always had no trouble with that. Like in terms of like sheer enjoyability, I
Mhm,
probably would have put Afterlife on there. I might have even put Tick Tick Boom on there. But like
mhm.
I try to do like there's enjoyability, but like also what would I specifically give it as a grade if I'm being honest? Like for instance, I love
Yeah,
Scream, but I wouldn't give Scream a 10. You know what
right.
I mean?
Right,
Like it's
right,
like
right, right, right,
so
right.
I try to do my top 10 list based on what I would actually grade them since I'm trying to be honest and talk to people about them, but it
Mhm.
doesn't necessarily mean it's my favorite. Like there are movies that are B's that I like more than 10s that I would watch all the, you know what I mean? Like so
Yep.
I totally feel you. I know I don't think
Mhm.
I totally feel you doing that 100%. I'm just being
And
trying to be
vice versa.
super empirically honest, which isn't always fun.
No, I think it's
There are
fine.
C's that I'll watch more than 10 sometimes. So, so
Well, we have a trend going, and I'm not going to break it here because my number 8 is also a superhero movie, and it's Zack Snyder's Justice League.
of course you
I
put that one on there. I
I
knew it.
know. I think it is awesome. Like
I know.
I watched it twice. I watched a 4-hour superhero movie twice. I can't watch an hour and a half superhero movie once. Um, um I'm just from a creative just a creative's perspective, I'm so grateful that it exists, especially
Yeah.
after the absolute dumpster fire that was Justice League. I remember like when the reviews were coming out for this, everybody was like, "Oh my god, I was wrong. Oh my god, I was wrong," because nobody expected this to be that good. I kind of did because I really like Zack Snyder.
Yeah, you
Um,
do.
but I think really what he did again, and it's one of my favorite things about his superhero genres is yes, he takes it over seriously. Like of course he does. That's it's a trope of his at this point. But my favorite part about superhero movies is feeling like they're mythological. Like not necessarily like the whole grounded like it's our world stuff, but feeling like how does society react to beings of this caliber just existing? You know what I mean?
Which makes sense to me why you also Superman is your favorite. That would totally make
Yes.
sense with you.
Yeah, yeah,
100%.
exactly. Because I love the societal repercussions of them just being there. It's like, okay, so
Hmm.
how do governments operate? What does society do? Let alone like the burglars and criminals on the streets. I think that stuff is really fun, and I think Zack Snyder kind of nails it with a lot of his imagery. He has a lot of misses with his like pacing and story choices sometimes, but
His imagery is usually beautiful, like for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. But seeing these characters kind of get their due from to Batman to what was redone with Superman and Wonder Woman and Ray Fisher's Cyborg, it was just so much fun. And Ezra Miller's Flash gets the standout moment in the entire movie. You know what I mean? And it's actually watching that again made me even more excited for the new Batman movie just because I was like, oh yeah, like this shit is so sick. I know it's going to be completely different, but
I'm excited for the new one though. It seems more like gritty and like what I was hoping. Like, I think I told you this years ago. If I was ever allowed to write a Batman story, I would have made the Riddler the arch nemesis because I
yeah,
haven't seen that yet. And I think I had told you I would have made it almost like a seven kind of, because like he's always mentioned he's like the greatest detective ever, but I don't see that much in movies. So like I want to
Hmm.
cover that aspect and have that element, but still be an action packed that. And I feel like it seems like everything I'm getting in this movie, except I don't really like the way the Riddler looks. I'm hoping there's an actual Riddler style outfit later, but that's like
Yeah,
my only gripe. But like so far, it seems cool.
it
Like
seems
yeah,
really cool. I was kind of shocked at the runtime. It got a 3 hour
yeah,
runtime, 2 hours,
it's like
55
2 hours.
minutes. And the
Yeah,
screen test was 4 hours. So
yeah.
I
So
feel
they
like
cut
there's
it
going to be a
down.
lot. I feel like there's going to be a lot of meat on this. I didn't expect that. I thought they were going to go. I figured, DC's continuing dark and serious, but I didn't think they were going to go with like an epic for an intro movie to a new Batman.
Yeah.
So
It
I'm
almost
interested.
feels like it's gonna be like a real, thick book graphic novel version of, like like a big, 300 page graphic novel
Yeah,
Batman thing, like, which I'm like I'm for if it's good. As long as it's good, I'm happy. I mean,
same.
I like the stars. I like the stars and everything. And the director directed the second two Planet of the Apes films, which I have to be honest, the first one, I think it was Rupert Wyatt directed the first
Hmm.
one. That was like I think that's the best directed in the series personally. I think it's so good. And then after that, he like doesn't seem like he did a lot, but he just came on
Hmm.
board and he was amazing. And I
Yeah,
kind of thought he was going to be like this new Spielberg-esque person. And he does stuff, but I mean, I don't hear about him anymore.
yeah,
But then
yeah,
Matt Reeves came in and did the second and third one. I actually think the second one was the third one was good, but I thought the second one was quite good.
yeah. I thought
Like
so
really
too.
good.
I'm
That was the
actually
first time
shocked at how
Matt
much I
Reeves did
enjoyed that
something.
trilogy. Sorry.
Yeah, I thought the third one was okay, but like the first two I really liked, and the second one, it is cliche by the book writing, but
Hmm.
none of it's bad writing. It's just
Yeah,
by the book writing, but it's handled really well. And I think that was the first time directing wise I was like, this Matt Reeves guy's pretty good.
yeah, yeah, for
So
sure.
yeah,
I'm
I'm
surprised. I haven't thought about those movies in a while. I really enjoyed them. Happy you brought
yeah.
them up.
Till this day, I never forgot the scene. I was like, I knew I liked him, but the moment I realized I loved this Rupert Wyatt guy was when you don't know where the monkeys are, and it's just the shot of the fucking street, and you just see the leaves starting to fall.
Yeah,
Like, and I was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
that's so good. I was like, I don't think I ever would have thought of showing it that way, and I was
Yep.
like, that's really cool. Like,
That was sick. That
I
was sick.
liked it a lot. It was awesome. Yeah,
All right, number seven.
yeah. What's your
Um,
number seven?
my number seven, I also expected to be a lot higher. And that
Mm.
is Paul Thomas Anderson's new movie, Licorice Pizza.
Ah,
Um,
yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
is that a good one?
I really like that one too.
Yeah, I
That's a good
imagine it's
movie.
going to be somewhere. Well, we'll be talking about that more. So here's the thing: Paul Thomas Anderson. I don't have anything to say that no one else has. Every time that he's releasing a film, I want to be there day one, given
Hmm.
the opportunity. I think this one kind of lands somewhere in the middle, maybe a little lower middle of his filmography. But I think as for what he was going for, as far as kind of putting you into this period, and from what my perspective on the movie was making you feel like a teenager in this time.
Yeah,
It just the
for
entire
sure.
movie felt fucking crazy. It's like you're
You're
doing
you're
one thing over
transported.
here, and you're doing all of a sudden you're dealing with this over here, and all of a sudden you want to do this and that doesn't work out, and you're trying to figure out who you are, so all of a sudden you're trying to do something else. Like the movie was
Yeah,
so sporadic and all over the place, and in some places like funky and kind of warm and fun and fresh, and other places really dark and kind of cruel and scary. Like it
yeah,
really felt like it transported you to this time, but not only this time, because I have another movie on my list that was really transported too, but it really put you in the mind of this person who, what I'm trying to say is, it's similar to how I remember being 15 or 16, you know?
yeah. I could see that
Um,
for sure.
and I thought that was really funny from a story structure perspective, or all that. It works sometimes and it doesn't work in other places, but as far as taking you out of that movie theater chair and putting you into the 1970s San Fernando Valley during a
For
gas
sure.
crisis, you're gone.
Yeah.
You're
It's
gone.
cool how much the gas prices affected elements of the story. And you know what's funny about that?
Hmm.
It's kind of crazy that we're talking about this today, but today at work there was a guy who has a lot of muscle cars, and he was actually telling me about how back in the day, when the gas crisis hit, all those muscle cars were worth like $100 because they
Really?
were so expensive that
Yeah.
the gas was so expensive that suddenly these high valued cars were like worth garbage. Like you could
Yeah.
literally, like if you were a muscle car person, you could go and get beat up old muscle cars that still semi worked from the junkyard for like $100
Yeah.
because people were dumping them because they ate up so much gas and there wasn't any gas. So like it was he was talking about this and I was like, this is so funny because Licorice Pizza came out and I never thought about how the gas prices would affect, how detrimental it was to people at the time, and the way
Yeah.
this movie handled it and how it actually influenced the story for some really great scenes.
Yep.
There's a scene on a hill with a truck that is amazing.
How
Like,
intense was that?
it's like super intense, and I loved it. Also, it's a very inappropriate age relationship, and yet by the end, I'm
Mhm.
still kind of rooting for them, which I did not expect to be. Which is it's
Yeah.
awkward, but I'm also like, yay
I
for you, but I feel
I
weird.
wasn't. I was
Like,
like, this is gonna self-destruct. This is
yeah,
fucked
well,
up.
that's kind of how I thought at first, but I was like, yay for you, and then it cuts, and I'm like, that's exactly how I'm thinking. I'm like, yeah, it's good to cut there because I'm sure it
Right.
didn't go
I think
well later.
so not only is like you bring up the concept of the movie really
It's
really
like
not okay. You
it's a
know what I
really
mean?
controversial film, yeah. Like the fact that
Yeah.
it's got good reviews and stuff. It's kind of funny with cancel culture and stuff the way it is today. It's kind of funny, like, but
Well,
there is something wonderful about it though. It's just,
I've always
yeah, it's
seen
interesting.
so what works for me about it is depiction is an endorsement and the
Exactly,
relationship
exactly.
never feels healthy or okay. So you're almost
No,
watching
it
these two
doesn't.
people. Well, one you're watching one person who's a child be a child and have a crush on somebody, and then a mid-20s woman who doesn't
Yeah.
know where she's at in life make more terrible decisions.
Really
Um,
terrible decisions.
but you're watching them and watching them go through this journey. They make it make sense why this could happen. Doesn't make it
Yeah.
okay, but you believe
No,
them.
it doesn't.
You know, you
Exactly.
believe them.
And that's why I was saying I feel awkward at the end because I'm like, oh, happy, but then I'm like, but then I feel awkward because it's
Yeah,
not right. So I'm like, but at the same time, you made me feel two emotions simultaneously. That's impressive. Like,
exactly.
I don't
It's
know
like
what to say. It's
you're
interesting.
it's a happy ending, but it's gross.
Yeah, yeah,
um,
exactly. It's like, yeah,
I will say something about the structure of this movie that I loved is how it goes from not set piece, but almost like it feels like chapter. As it goes from chapter to chapter, you're meeting these insane
yeah,
characters who are putting these people in incredibly weird or dangerous situations from like movie
yeah,
producers and politicians and
yeah.
husbands of actors. And it has by
To
far
like
the
possible.
best cameos of the year. Like
Oh,
every
it has,
cameo is
dude.
a
No,
slam dunk.
the Bradley Cooper
Yeah.
cameo was like arguably the best part of the movie. It's
Yeah.
so good. Like it is, and he gives it his all. Like I mean,
Yep.
his all. Like he's
Hmm.
only there for like maybe 10 minutes total, but his all in every scene. He is anybody who says that Bradley Cooper isn't a good actor, you can fuck off. Like I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I'm just like no, bro. He's even proven he can be ridiculous. Like I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
like seriously, man. Like
He's kind of had the star power for a while, but every movie, I don't know why. I've heard that too, that people don't think he's that
yeah,
great of an actor, but
I know
every
some people
movie
who
he's
don't.
in,
He's
every
great.
single movie he's great. Even the last
He's
movie is the last movie he started. I haven't seen Nightmare Alley yet. And that should have been on my
I
list,
haven't
but
seen that, but the one before was The Star Is Born,
and it
right?
was
Or
phenomenal. It
it
was
was great.
phenomenal.
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
super, and he even sang in the movie. I didn't even know he could sing. Like
Yeah.
like dude, like he's great. Like I've liked him for a long time and I still meet people who are like I feel like he's overrated and I'm like he what about him is
Where?
overrated
Yeah.
though? Like yeah, like I'm always so confused
What
at that.
movie? What movie didn't he give a good
I'm like
performance?
I can't think of a film where his performance like you might not like the movie but I never thought he was bad. I've always thought he's pretty great like in
Yeah.
in everything he does. So yeah, I don't get that one. That's why I'm saying that. I'm like please give me reasons why he's a bad actor.
Yeah.
Like I'd
I
like to
don't think
hear
there
them.
are
I
any.
don't think there are any either.
What was your number 7?
So my number 7, I'm gonna move into number 6 quickly because my number 7 was actually Bo Burnham's Inside.
Oh, was it? Okay,
Yeah, it
very cool.
was. That was my number 7. And
Good
as you know, yes, we
choice.
both love Bo Burnham. If you guys haven't seen Inside, I definitely recommend it. But he actually has two other stand-ups too that are great. And if you like Inside, his other ones are actually funnier and they're amazing
Yes.
too. Inside was kind of amazing for what it's documenting. That's what's cool
Hmm.
about Inside. It's comedic, but it's also kind of like a documentary of his isolation. It's like
Yes.
more of a, I would argue it's actually more of a semi-comedic documentary than it is a comedy show like his other two
Yeah.
pieces are, which is I think what makes it really really special. And he also did another film that I didn't see, but it was his first directorial debut where he wrote it too, and I heard that was good too, like
Mm.
2 3 years ago. But I haven't seen it, but I
Oh,
heard it was
I
great.
saw it. 18. Was it 18
It,
or 16?
it's 16. It was something like that.
It
Yeah,
was
with the
great.
little girl. With
It
the
was
little
great.
girl. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
heard it
saw
was
it.
great.
Yeah.
Um, So my number 6 actually is something I thought was gonna be okay, and I loved it. Arcane. I really liked Arcane.
Arcane. I
I
started
really
Arcane. I
liked
haven't finished
Arcane.
it. Very
Oh, really?
nice.
Dude,
Yep.
it gets to the end. And here's the thing about Arcane. This is something that I have to point out because I know you don't play League of Legends. I
Mhm.
played more Dota, but I have played some League. I've put in a decent amount of hours in League. So at least I'd say I have at least 60 hours in it, okay? So it's not as much as Dota or anything.
Yes.
But I know the characters and I know some of their basic like their quibs and stuff while they're playing and their personalities and stuff. And what I think is really impressive about Arcane is
Hmm.
that it's a pretty great show even if you've never seen League of Legends. You don't have to have played the
Yes.
game to understand the story. You can tell they were just like, we're going to find a way to write a League of Legends story, but you don't need to have played the game to understand this. It's just going to be a great show.
Right.
And they did it, and it has so much style to it. It's actually the animation style and certain things is super impressive, and they still keep League's CGI cutscene style, cartoon style that they use in their trailers, but it's for
Hmm.
the whole show. And their Jinx's character, the way they show her, I'll just say her psychological issues
Jinx was the
throughout
younger
the
sister,
show.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The way they show her psychological issues throughout the story, especially as you get to the mid and later point, it is phenomenal. I can say it is so unique. I have never seen anything like it in a film or animation. Like
Really?
how well they weave the editing and the choppy weird effects in with reality.
Yep.
And it seems to match her personality from the game so well that like her kind of craziness, it feels very, and I'm sure that's politically incorrect, but it's the best way to describe it. Her kind of
Hmm.
craziness, it matches her character so well because she's a very Harlequin-esque kind of character
Hmm.
later. And she's got issues that are caused from past traumas, but the way they choose to animate that on the screen and intercut between scenes with her psychosis and what's going on, it's actually phenomenally brilliant. Like it is. And
Yeah.
then if you know the show and you know what Jinx's ultimate ability is, I'll just say that the ending of the show is fucking phenomenal. Like I was literally like just the cinematography of the shots and the wide, and when you see what's happening, you're like, oh, here we go. You're just like, and even if you don't know the game, it's awesome. But if you know the game, you're just like, I've been waiting for it. Like, when are
Yeah.
we gonna see Jinx's ult? You know,
Yep.
and the way it's written and the way it ends to set up for the next season, it is such a good ending. Like it is, and when I mean ending, just writing wise, it's great. And it's so awful at the same time, like in a good way.
Oh.
Like you're just like, oh, because everything that's happened, and then the way it ends, you're like, no, and that's how it's ending, and you're like, ah, it's really great. I thought it was gonna be okay, and
Yeah.
I loved it. I really loved Arcane. I plan on watching it again. I really liked it.
I'm actually
Yeah.
happy you brought it up because I actually stopped at a really critical point, not for any reason, just because I got
What
distracted. But
episode?
I episode 3 when like shit hits
Oh
the
no!
fan. I
Oh
know.
no! That's when
So
it starts to just
you know
get so
exactly.
good.
You
It's
know
like,
what's funny is like after that
yeah,
episode, I was like,
dude.
oh, this is getting good, and then
Yeah,
somehow I forgot about it. So I'm happy you
yeah.
said that. Now I can go back and watch
Yeah,
it.
please do because yeah, episode 3 is when it starts to really pick up because it's like you had 3 characters to understand the world
Yep.
and the people and kind of inciting events, and then it just starts to it just
It
keeps
rolls.
going to the end. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. And some of the action sequences are amazing too. And
Yep.
yeah, and if you know the characters from the game, like the scenes are amazing anyway, but if you know the characters of the game, it's like you're not missing out on anything if you don't, but if you do, it's just an extra cherry on top in certain scenes that you'll
Yeah.
know, but it
Yeah.
doesn't take away anything if you don't know. But if you know it's something special just for you, there are little things that are really cool, which is how you should do that. In my opinion,
Yes.
you shouldn't make something that's dependent upon them knowing the source material. You need to make something that's great anyway. And if you're a
Mhm.
fan of it, you have these extra little Easter eggs that are just for you. That's how you should do something well. So I
Yep.
actually commend Riot on doing that. And I did not expect that to be on my list. I genuinely thought I was going to have to make myself get through it and it would be okay, but I loved it. Like it was really great. So,
Nice. All
yeah.
right. I expected my number 6 to actually break my top 5, but I'll tell you why it didn't. I was walking through the grocery store the other day and I saw this on the Blu-ray shelf, which is like, they have like 5 Blu-rays, so it's going to be a big movie. And I saw
Yeah.
that and I was like, I don't think I want to watch that at home. and that was Denis Villeneuve's Dune. I saw it. We saw it together actually, and
We
seeing
did.
it in IMAX was such an incredible experience. In
It
fact,
was.
the and like you hear this all the time because it's like the benchmark, but I genuinely do feel this way. I have not seen a movie take me away to where I could not see anything else since Lord of the Rings. You are gone and you are
Yeah.
on this planet. What was the planet called? I know it was House Atreides and House Harkonnen, but I
Yeah.
can't remember the planet they
I
were on.
just know that they were doing spice and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I forgot the name of the planet too. Actually,
So
Arrakis. It's like
Arrakis.
Arrakis,
That's yeah, it's Arrakis.
like something like that, right? I'm like, because I was always like, it sounds like arachnid. Like,
Yeah. So here's the thing about Dune. I'm gonna say one other thing that holds it back, and then I'm just gonna gush about it. It didn't know when to end, and it also
I
chose
agree.
kind of the best place it could find to end for
Yeah.
to kind of kick off a part two. Then we
Hmm.
kind of had that fear that I hope they get greenlit for a part two because it's COVID, and who knows if this giant $300 million blockbuster of a film is even going to get a part two. It did,
I
thankfully.
also, I won't lie, I'm gonna talk to you about this because Doom was my number 5.
Oh, was
So
it? Okay, so
yeah,
that's great. So
yeah,
let me finish my point, and then I can
yeah,
jump to my
for sure,
number five
for
afterward.
sure, for
Um,
sure. No, no, I meant I'm gonna talk to you while you're doing this. Like I'll let
yes.
you do your thing, but yeah, yeah, yeah. So go ahead.
But as far as somebody who knows nothing about the source material, I've never read any Frank Herbert novel. I do
Mhm.
plan on reading Dune eventually. I'm just getting through some other things on my bookshelf. Maybe I'll do audiobook, but regardless, for them to have a 2.5 hour to 3 hour movie and catch somebody like me up who loves fantasy movies and who is willing to pay attention and really try to understand what's going on, it was so effective so quickly to catch me up on the ongoing kind of Cold War situation, what the houses represent, what how they gain their resources, what's going on in the background. It was actually kind of stunning to me because none of it felt like exposition dumps. It all kind
No,
of
no, no.
came
Yeah,
naturally.
I agree
Um,
with you on that, by the way, because I haven't read the books either, and I felt the
yeah,
exact same way. The expositional scenes were, they just felt like I was just part of the world and I was learning really
everything you need to know, right?
organically. Like
Everything you
yeah,
need to know.
for sure, everything. Yeah,
Um, I want to. I'm trying to think of the things that haven't been said 1,000 times, just to also get it out of the way. It's gorgeous, like it's
it
amazing.
is. It
Everything
is.
looks amazing.
It's
Uh,
Denis Villeneuve. He's like
right.
one of the best modern directors that's come out of the
Um,
woodwork in the last like 8 years or whatever. He's just destroyed everything. He's
mhm.
amazing.
The scale, and especially seeing it in IMAX with the enhanced sound, shout out to the giant sandworm section, all of that. You're just everything is so big, and you're gone. You're on the desert with them. All of the performances are absolute knockouts.
Yeah.
Timothy Chalamet, incredible lead.
It's
Really
actually
enjoyed
my
his
first time
performance.
ever seeing him in a movie, believe it or not. I haven't
Oh
seen
yeah,
any of the films
really?
he's been in, and I think it's great. Yeah.
Not only is he great, but they got the right guy. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
seeing sometimes you'll see a lead in a movie and you're like, is this guy really going to carry like a series? You know what I mean? Are we? I don't want to follow this person.
I
Super
love
da-
Rebecca Ferguson too. I
Rebecca
love her.
Ferguson, scene stealer. Everybody has a scene. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Oscar
everybody
Isaac's
has a
great
scene.
too. Like he's
Yep.
fantastic. Honestly, I find I'm loving Rebecca Ferguson more and more. Like she
Yep.
was everything. She was like the main thing that I loved about Doctor Sleep too. Like
Yeah.
so,
Same.
yeah.
Man, I love that movie.
Dude, her
Um,
performance is so good. I could just
yeah.
watch her scenes easily, like
So,
in that movie.
I think for me, if we would have had a part two, or if we would have had a 4.5 hour movie produced, I think this would have easily cracked my top one to top three.
Hmm.
My only gripe is I don't think it stands strong alone.
By
You know,
itself. It's
right.
clearly an unfinished. And what I like about that though is you can tell they know, right?
Yeah.
Because the movie doesn't say Dune and then it'll
Hmm.
say Dune 2. It says Dune Part 1. So it's
Right.
letting you know that it is the first half of one project. It is
Right.
not, it's like Kill Bill Volume 1. Although Kill Bill Volume 1 does end well and it stands on its own, but it's still
And
extremely unfinished. If that didn't finish, you'd be like, she got through 2 people
and
on the list, what the fuck? You know
I
what I
was
mean? Like,
comparing it. Kill Bill came to mind, and Fellowship of the Ring came to mind, and I was like, am I
yeah.
being fair to this? But there are
But they all
distinct
do feel
stopping
like,
points. This
yeah,
one doesn't
yeah.
have a distinct stopping point. It
It
doesn't feel
doesn't.
climactic.
It
You know,
doesn't. Like even though like,
it does
Lord of the
for
Rings is
character
a
growth.
trilogy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like but even though Lord of the Rings is a trilogy, like you said, each film feels like a movie that has a complete arc to it.
Hmm.
And the same thing with Kill Bill. Even if you stopped in the middle of the list, those arcs for those first two people are complete, and it sets up the next one, but it does feel very complete for the first film, even though it's in the middle.
Yeah.
So I understand exactly what you mean, and I feel like this was very ballsy.
Hmm.
But one thing I would say about this movie that's interesting is a lot of people say that the movie isn't as good as the book because the movie cuts out a lot of stuff. I feel like Dune is an example of being like, I haven't read the book, but from what I've read, it sounds like an example of being faithful to the book, which is
Hmm.
almost why they had an awkward time cutting it, probably because
Yeah.
you're going to cut right in the middle of the book or right when things get interesting, or what have you, is what it seems like to me.
Yeah.
um, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean, like it feels honest, like very honest. I
Yeah.
and I'm with you, it's very transportive, like extremely.
Yeah, I think so. What's funny is from from kind of a story perspective, where it ends actually makes sense for a part one. Like
Hmm.
it ends at the point where he decides to kind of embrace a different path, stay on this
Hmm.
planet, and make a decision for himself instead of kind of being told what to do. And you're like, that makes sense. How he gets there and the events right
Yeah.
before that happen are large from a character standpoint, but from a visual
Yeah.
standpoint and everything we've been dealing with,
Yeah.
it falls a little flat.
It falls very flat, and
That being
also
said,
yeah.
once part two comes out, I don't think that's going to be the case anymore.
No,
You know,
no,
yeah.
no, no. But it does fall. It does feel kind of anticlimactic from everything that they just ran away from. It feels
Hmm.
very like I almost feel like them barely escaping and flying off into the desert in search would have been a better ending than this kind of initiation into a group. But it almost
Hmm.
feels like, this is just my opinion, but hear me out. Like I'm wondering if Denis Villeneuve had trouble figuring out where to end it too, so he
Yeah.
basically got to this point because he's ending with her and he's finally with her. So it's bookending Zendaya to some extent because it starts with her dream and it
Hmm.
ends with him finally with her. And I think he
Yeah.
felt like maybe for him, rather than ending on a climax, bookending this character, the dream of, or the vision of, and then actually being with her on this path.
Hmm.
Maybe that's how he decided to bookend it. Like that's the only thing I can really think of that would make sense to me. I don't know if it's necessarily the right choice, but I think I kind of understand what he was trying to go for, which
Yeah.
seems kind of like a rough thing. But I mean, it's ballsy though to just do this first half of
It's
the movie with no guarantee
super
of a
ballsy.
second,
It's super ballsy,
especially in the
but
middle of COVID. And I know that like COVID wasn't planned, but still, like committing to that, like that's yeah.
yeah. I can't wait till the second one comes out. I really
Me too.
loved it. You know, I
Me too.
really loved it. And continue to give Denis Villeneuve, as long as he wants to do him, continue to give him giant sci-fi projects because
Please,
he's
please,
kind of
yeah.
seeming like the best at it right now.
I liked Blade Runner 2049 more than the original, which I didn't think I would say.
I
I did personally. That's just me. But
They kind
I
of hold similar to me. I think
yeah.
they're, I don't know. I see where you're coming from.
Like
Uh,
I can't help it. Like I
yeah,
just do.
I
Like
think it
I don't
stands
want to say
as
it
good
because
of a movie. No, you should,
yeah,
because I think
it
it is
feels
as good of a
sacrilege.
movie.
It
Yeah,
feels
you know.
sacrilege because they're like, Blade Runner, every frame is beautiful, and it is. It's really cool. But like,
So is
there's something
2049.
about it
Yeah,
is. But yeah,
yeah.
I
So is
know.
2049.
I know, but yeah, 2049 got me more. Like I
Yeah.
liked the story more. I liked. I know the iconic ending of the first one's great too, but like
Hmm.
there's a lot about 2049 I really liked, and there was just imagery with like even with the AI that he's having,
Hmm.
like there's just so much about that film that's just not just beautiful, but it's very the human experience through I don't know what you call it, digitalization, like in that film. It's just really really interesting.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
digitization. I'm not sure. One of those words.
Digitization. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um. Alrighty, Dune. I'm gonna move on to my number five, if that's okay.
Please do.
Shaka King coming through early in the year with Judas and the Black Messiah.
Yes.
I watched this on HBO, and I actually thought I have loved that there is an option to watch these films on demand on HBO.
I know. It's pretty
But
cool.
I've been choosy with the ones I choose to and the
Yep.
ones I don't choose to. This was
Hmm.
one that I figured I could watch at home and feel confident that I would get the experience I wanted.
Hmm.
I wish I would have seen it in theaters, because even
Ooh,
though
nice.
it's a grounded story, for anybody who doesn't know the story about Judas and the Black Messiah, it's the story of Fred Hampton and the person who betrayed him, Bill O'Neill. Um, and I remember seeing another movie that had Fred Hampton as a side character early in the year called Trial of the Chicago Seven.
Which I
And
have not seen that one. That's the
um,
Netflix movie, right?
first movie that Aaron Sorkin directed. He wrote it
Yeah.
too, so you know the dialogue is going to be killer, and it is. Fred Hampton is in the background of that movie, and I was watching it, and I was like, there is a better, more interesting Fred Hampton story that could be told. He's not the main character in that movie. He's just kind of in the background, but I was like,
Hmm.
that's kind of disappointing.
Well, wait, didn't Aaron Sorkin do Molly's Game? Was
He
that his first, or was that this?
did he do Molly's Game? I know he wrote
I
Molly's
thought
Game.
I thought he directed. I might be wrong though. Hang on. Now I just got to know. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. But this movie took
Yes, he directed Molly's Game. That
he did. So he directed this. Okay, cool.
must have been his second one. Cool.
Yeah, so
Sorry.
second one. Awesome. Um, there are moments and speeches and performances in this film that felt so large. Daniel Kaluuya, Lakeith Stanfield, and I haven't heard as many people talking about her, but Dominique Fishback um, are just fucking riveting throughout the whole movie, and especially for something to be a biopic, which to me I always have red flags, because it's hard to nail that balance between interesting but not having it too much of a dramatization to where it can kind of feel disrespectful, but also
Yeah.
having it be a great movie. And
Mhm.
this movie, for me, nailed it all. Like, it nailed it all. We were talking about like our favorite kind of current actors right now, and the first one that came to mind for me was Lakeith Stanfield. I remember seeing him for the
Oh,
first
love
time in
him.
Short Term 12, and I was like, this guy's the fucking bomb. Like, whoever he is, I hope he just keeps getting work, and he does. And in this
Me too.
movie, he's one of the shared leads, and he uh, I I don't want to give too much away for anybody who doesn't know kind of the spark notes or the story of.
I have to be honest. I'm one of the people that doesn't know the whole story. So
Okay, excellent. So please go in blind. Please
I
watch it.
will. I
Please
will.
see some of these speeches that are dramatized and spoken from Daniel Kaluuya and Fred Hampton's words, and see the way that it's directed and the sound design and the score they use in the background, because it is a beautiful movie
It seems
and
like
an
Daniel
incredible figure.
Kaluuya. It seems like Daniel Kaluuya really transformed too, because he was
Yeah.
just in something else, and this one seems like he's put on some weight, and
Yep.
he's like his like I don't know, his whole look. He just looks really different. Like I was like, man, that is Daniel Kaluuya, but it's crazy. He morphed.
Yeah, and especially I don't think this was a January movie, but it was definitely a early year movie, and I had to really go back to think of what my favorites were. And as I was making it, I was like, it's got to be in the top five. It's got to be in the top
Mm, yeah,
five.
it's
And it
it's
is.
it's it's probably the biggest one on my list. That and Soho are the two I want to see the most. So,
Yeah, yeah. And this
but
one,
like
I'm not sure if they pulled it, but it should be on HBO Max.
I think I saw it recently
Yeah.
because I think I told you recently. Like how like sometimes there are some subjects people just even though they admit it's good, they're just not into. Like they have
Hmm.
to make themselves. So I think I've told you for you one of mine is war films. Even though
Hmm.
when I see the good ones, I love them, but you kind of almost have to make me see them, right? Like because
Yes.
I'll never choose to. I hate saying this, but I actually feel similar about biopics. A
I
lot
don't blame you. You know.
like because like a lot of times I know the stories, so it's like I don't need to see a biopic, but then other
Hmm.
times I'd rather just I like for instance when it comes to biopics, a lot of times I'd rather see like a documentary,
Right.
like a lot of the time. So whenever something's a biopic, and I think that's why with Judas I want to see it, but like I think that's probably why, because it is a biopic. Same thing with the trial of Chicago 7. I want to see it, but it's like a biopic.
Yeah.
So I'll get to it eventually, but it's almost like war movies. I see them eventually, but it's usually down the line, or someone's like over and they're like, let's watch this, and I'm like, okay, well now I don't have an excuse because I'm
Yep.
not going to say no, and I do.
Yep. Yep. It's so funny that you say that you would rather watch a documentary instead, because I would love to take
Just
number
of
four.
biopics, just
I
of
know.
biopics.
No, I know.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's a great transition to my number four, if that's okay.
Actually, please, because my number 4 was Licorice Pizza.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah.
My number four was documentary biopic
Was
Val.
it?
It was
Oh,
Val. Yeah.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember you telling me how much you loved Val. I figured it was going
Yeah.
to be on your list. Ooh, number 4, you really liked it.
I
Yeah,
really liked it. It
I
actually
got to
got
see
moved
that.
down from number two, but believe it or
Wow,
not, it was kind of
wow,
flirting with number one right when I watched it.
wow.
So
That's
This was
Okay.
directed by Ting Pu and Leo Scott, who I'm not super familiar with as creators, but it was. I'm actually not a huge documentary guy, to be honest.
Oh,
There are a
really?
few that I've seen that I've loved, but this one, I I turned this one on a whim. I
Hmm.
was like, man, I love Val Kilmer. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that's just what
yeah,
I was
yeah.
thinking.
Oh, I do too.
And
I'm your Huckleberry. I mean, it's Val
I
Kilmer.
knew a little bit of his story with his throat cancer and him kind of cutting
Yeah,
his career short because of that. And I
yeah,
was just curious what's been going on.
yeah.
So before the concept here is his son narrates this movie, which was quite beautiful, and there's a lot of time between him and his son, him and his ex-wife, and just between their family. But most importantly, what is so fascinating and beautiful about this movie is the juxtaposition between two things. Before the digital age, when everything was either, or I should say the social media age, when everything was a film kind of, a not a film camcorder, but a digital camcorder,
Yeah.
or simple kind of snap cameras. Val Kilmer was filming everything. He was so excited to be a star from a young age that he just wanted to
Document the
have
whole
those
process.
records. So you're seeing him like on the sets of like Tombstone and Batman and Top Gun, hanging out with Tom Cruise and Kevin Bacon and getting all of this behind the scene footage and seeing exactly how passionate he was about this craft and how much he loved acting. And then
That's
you're going to his
amazing.
current day and you're seeing who he is, and he still has all that passion, but he can't speak anymore. He has a stoma. He speaks through a recording device.
Oh, so he can't speak at all
So
anymore.
he still he can, but it's through a digital device that amplifies his voice.
Interesting.
So he goes to fan fest and still loves to meet his fans, but as somebody who, like, you can tell adores his craft, you're watching him make magic in these movies, and you're watching him do his best to capture that with his current situation and leaning into his family for it. And it damn near brought me to tears again and again. This entire movie, I
Dude,
couldn't stop watching it. I
I
loved
love
it.
Val Kilmer, so
Yeah.
I do want to see. And you know what's funny? You're actually the second person to tell me that. Another person was like, "You like Val Kilmer, don't you?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm your Huckleberry." Not to mention, till this day, I love The Ghost in the Darkness with him and
Mm-hmm.
Michael Douglas, The Lions of
Yep.
Sarajevo. Like, I love that. Till this, I've probably seen that movie like 20 times. I love that movie, and I love, of course, Dwight Earp, and I love Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
I
I
love
oh,
Kiss Kiss
yeah,
Bang Bang.
that's so gay.
Um,
Go and look up the definition of the word idiot. You know what you'll see? What, me? No, the
which
definition of the word idiot.
is you, which you fucking are.
Yeah.
One of the standout moments that it's partly comedic, but it's also very sad to watch is watching Val Kilmer on the set of The Island of Dr. Moreau,
Oh,
which
yeah, that
is,
was a
we all
troubled.
know,
That was a troubled
troubled
production.
production,
Uh-huh.
terrible movie, multiple
It's
directors,
awful,
and
awful movie.
also he was working with his hero, Marlon Brando. At this point, Marlon Brando was nobody's hero. He was very late and he was a different person at this time in his life,
Oh,
you
I'm
know?
told he was awful. Like he
So
was like the
yeah,
worst
watching
experience
Val
ever.
Kilmer navigate that and kind of have his kind of opinions changed on all these exciting moments for him, you're just sitting there like, oh, dude, like this must suck. So
Can you
I would say,
imagine meeting like one of your icons and he's just this big awful person? You're like, oh man,
yeah,
they say don't
yeah,
meet your heroes, huh?
exactly. But I would say, even if you're just a fan of filmmaking or just kind of want to see kind of behind the scenes of what it's like to work on these movie sets from the actor's perspective, or more importantly, if you've loved any of Val Kilmer's performances,
Yeah,
or if you just want to see, I, I I put it so high because a lot of the movies I've put up here have been a lot about human connection, and I really went by, like we talked about. I don't know technically the best, but what made me feel the most? You know what I mean? What
yes, for
kept
sure,
me completely glued? What did it want me to feel? Did it work? And did I want to see it again right after? You know,
sure,
um, and that this is where all of these movies start to kind of get in that realm of hitting all of those things.
for sure, for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
I can
Um,
see that.
yeah, you said your number four was Licorice
Licorice
Pizza.
pizza. Yeah,
What?
so I'm in.
Yeah, well, I know we
I
talked about it before. Is high. Tell me a little more
it
about
is.
why number
I
four.
think I think a big reason it's number 4 is because I didn't expect it to be number 4. Like I like you were the one that was super excited, and I was excited to see it because I've only seen like 4 or 5 Paul Thomas Anderson movies, and I was like, yeah, this will be cool. It looked fun, and the trailer looked pretty good. but I
Hmm.
wasn't thinking it was going to be great. But I really thought it was great, and like some
Yep.
of the cinematography, like you said, to me, not as much as Dune, but it was very transportive to that time. Like I
Hmm.
felt like I was in another time the entire film, and
Hmm.
even though it kind of organically cut, and you don't even really know how much time has passed by the end of the movie, really. Like, you don't,
Yeah.
I guess. It could have been a few weeks, it could have been a few months, couple
Yep.
years. Like, I really don't know. That's why at the end of the movie, I was like, is he still 15 or is he like 18 now? Like, I was like, I genuinely don't know. Like, I think
Yeah.
originally I was like, well, at least he's like 18 now. But then I'm like, I don't know if he is though.
Yeah. That movie just
Like,
sets a whirlwind. You're like, who
yeah,
knows?
yeah, I really don't know because I think originally that was part of it. Like I thought it was like a few years had gone by and he was supposed to be like 18, 19
Hmm.
now, but then I'm like, is he still supposed to be 15?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but like there was something about it though that I really really liked. And I also really liked the actress, and I've never heard of her before, but I thought she did a
Alana
really great
Haim.
job.
Do you
Yeah,
know that
I
her family is
she
actually her family? Her
no,
family in the
really?
film is her family.
Really?
Yeah.
That's actually kind of
Isn't that
hilarious
great?
because I was like, man, are those really her sisters?
Yeah, yeah,
Like-
that's her sisters. That's her father and her mother.
I bet you that was really easy for her then. Like,
Yep.
oh God. You guys. But yeah, there was something about that film that I think it's because it's a slower film and yet I was brought into the world and I didn't leave it until I left. There was no
Yeah.
disconnect.
Yeah.
Which doesn't happen to me. Even if I really like a movie, there's moments where something happens that kind of pulls me out of it, and then if it's good, it just reels me right back in. I was
Mhm.
never pulled out of the movie. Like I felt like I was transported to that era and I stayed there until it was over. And it was just kind of like the only way I could put it is just a nice experience. It was good. Like it was
Yeah.
I don't know how to put it. Like I mean I probably should have put it like seventh or eighth, but I think because I was just very tuned in and I was trying to figure out what the hell is gonna happen with this.
Hmm.
I was fixed for some reason. So
Yeah.
yeah, I really liked it.
Me
um
too.
but so I'm gonna go into number three, which for me was on your honorable mentions, and for
Which one?
me it's Don't Look Up is
Oh,
number
yeah.
three for me.
Yep.
It was
I knew
it
when I
yeah.
watched that, I watched it and I texted you first. I was like,
Yeah,
this Fortune will fucking love this movie.
yeah, yeah. And I think you had said something before I had seen it. You were like, to me, it's almost like kind of a network of today because that was a film
Yeah.
I finally got to see this year. It was on my list for a while and it was
Mhm.
fantastic. This was actually number two until I saw something else.
Ah.
Um, but yeah, I really love Don't Look Up. To me, it feels almost like something I would write. like
Yeah.
like it's very I feel like it is on the nose, but like it's kind. I think what makes it okay is it's kind of you can tell that it's not even masquerading. It genuinely is a dark comedy.
Yep.
So it's okay that it's on the nose, and in some ways a little so on the nose that it's ridiculous because that's the whole point. Like
Yep.
like like the nature of who this is talking about are ridiculous. So
Hmm.
like
Yep.
and what I like about it is it's unapologetic about what it thinks of humanity right now and how doomed we are because of our own stupidity.
Yep.
Um and I agree.
Yep.
But like I just feel like everywhere it went was fantastic. I really found myself I didn't expect to. I was relating to Jennifer Lawrence's character more that entire film. Like what is wrong with you fucking people? Do you understand what's happening? And then eventually she just stops trying and she's just like, give me that alcohol. Do you want to have sex? Sure.
Right.
Like let's go.
But why would he take her money for snacks?
Yeah,
They
I
were
know.
free.
That was the best. The whole movie, and then it cuts to her when they're like laying down, and she's like, "So it turned out they were free." And it
Yeah.
cuts to her, and she's still trying to figure it out. And a lot of movies that are comedies, as you know, I don't find most comedies as funny as most people do.
Yeah.
That's why every now and then when I find something that I do, like some stand-ups I find hilarious, but most movies or shows that people think are funny, I'm not as into them. That's why every now and then when I find something I think is hilarious, I'm really into it. I found this pretty dang funny. Like for me,
Yeah.
Wolf of Wall Street was hilarious.
Love Wolf of Wall Street.
That's one of my favorite comedies in the last like 5 6 years.
Yep.
And then another thing is Afterlife with that I'm watching now is hilarious.
Yeah.
So when I find stuff that I think is hilarious, I tend to latch onto it because
Yep.
because it's just a certain brand of comedy. I'm just weird, and that's fine. But
Hmm.
this movie I did find funny. It was just funny because it's almost like a long Black Mirror episode if it was more comedic
Yeah.
and It's
Except it's
like,
current time. You don't need to go
yeah, except
sci-fi.
it's current. Yeah, it's current time, and I love how it's like mocking certain things about like climate change mixed with things like the pandemic. It's like
Yeah.
handling everything all at once. Like
Yep.
it's just like
And the
so for,
cast. The
oh, the cat,
cast.
dude, the
Yeah.
performances were great, dude. They were
Leo's
so great.
breakdown on television.
Dude, the bathroom scene was
That
great, but then
man
the television,
acts.
scene, yeah, that
Yeah.
television scene, like him and Jennifer Lawrence both had a television scene
Yeah, they
basically
did.
where they lost it, and the best part is he finally caught up. And
Yep.
I fucking love Kate Blanchett, and her character in this was so great. I love
Yep.
her in everything, and in this she was so great. She's like, oh, this is awkward. I'm staying out of this. This is usually the part where you guys decide. What? Well, this is the part where you guys fight and then decide if you're gonna stay together. I'm just gonna have my wine.
Her exit's great too. Leo being blindfolded.
Yeah,
He's like, "Are you still
yeah.
there?" She's like, "No,
No.
no."
It's
Yeah,
so great.
I
And I
like that
love how
movie a lot.
honest it is. It's like the rich people are the ones that screw everyone over, but they're the ones that escape on the pod, which I'm sure is how it really
Mhm.
would. I always say that to my friends. They're like, why would the oil companies lie and about climate change, blah blah blah. I'm like, "Dad, they probably have bunkers or some shit somewhere. When we all
Mhm.
die, they're gonna be fine."
Right,
Like,
right.
so like that ending, I was just laughing when the ship goes flying off with them in it. I'm like, yep. And she even left her son on the planet, which was hilarious. She just leaves Jonah Hill and Meryl Streep as the president. Like that's amazing, bro.
Incredible,
It's so
incredible.
cool. It's
Uh,
so cool. I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
yeah, I liked it a lot too. All right, we're cracking my top three. My
Okay.
three favorite film projects this year. So I'm starting with. I mean, I can I can interchange all of these to be honest, but this is how I still kind of feel this way. Number three, Midnight Mass, Mike Flanagan. I The Haunting of Hill House, The Haunting of Bly Manor, and
Yes.
Midnight Mass have been my favorite Netflix produced projects. All three of
Mhm.
them. And in this one, I actually think I love this for so many reasons.
Me too.
And from my perspective, it does some things so significantly better than those other ones, and then some things not quite as good as those other ones. But I think this project, for what he's been able to get produced through Netflix, has been by far his most ambitious, his most personal,
I
and
personally think it's the most well written too.
and
I think that's just my opinion. I
yeah,
think from
yeah,
beginning to end, it's like a perfect. It's so
yeah,
well planned. It feels
yeah.
like a
It's
perfect ending, a perfect beginning, a perfect middle.
yeah,
I just
yeah.
sorry. It's
Um,
my no. It's my number one.
is
So
your number
that's
one?
why I feel like I'm joining in here because
Okay,
it's my
no,
number. It's my number one on my list. Yeah.
yes, we have a couple more to get through. So let me nerd out about
Yeah.
this a little bit, and then I want you
Go
to
ahead.
go in when we get to number one.
Go ahead.
The performances and characters that it puts in front of you probably pulled at my heartstrings the most for any project this year. Especially whenever I think about this show, there are there are a couple things I think back to, but the number one thing that I always think back to is a conversation between a character Riley and a character Joe Colley.
Mm,
Joe Colley, there was a tragic accident between these two characters, and Riley, who is a young girl, has every reason to hate this man, and she does. And this is a confrontation between them after a miracle has happened. And I'm not kidding. I'm really not the type of person I to get pull at my heartstrings when I'm watching a movie. You got to really hit something.
mhm,
And I'm not trying to say like I'm like cold or unemotional, but when it comes to movies, sometimes I can be too clinical. You know what I mean?
mhm.
There are so many monologues in this, and that's what I've heard a lot of people say as a criticism. It's very monologue heavy. I don't care. They all work. You know what I mean? Like
Monologues don't bother me. I mean, I like The Matrix.
yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like when it comes from a criticism perspective, everything has to be criticized to such a degree to where maybe it's not realistic or people don't talk that way or this wouldn't have happened this way. And I can be a little guilty of that too. But something that I'm trying to really lean into is whether it feels genuine or not, how does it make me feel and what does it have to do with this story? Like, even if people don't talk this way, what are you trying to get across? And does it make me feel how you're trying to make me feel? And
Mhm.
this show landed it every single time from
Yeah.
beginning to end. I think it was an 8 episode run, maybe a 7 episode run.
And I think it was
It wasn't a 10. It wasn't
It was
10. It was
no,
short.
it was 7. Was it 9?
I'm not
It
sure.
was
Maybe you can
7.
look that up in the background. It was between 6 and
Yeah,
9. Um,
yeah.
but we'll move on to the next one because I know I knew this was going to be your number one. I want to hear your take on it too because you've been kind of doing a lot with this.
Yeah, 7 episodes. Yeah,
Seven.
you're right. Yeah.
Um, and it landed again by far my favorite thing that Netflix put out this year. Um, an incredible project. All of this kind of haunting series always is dealing with really big themes and kind of using horror as a backdrop, and this continues that trend more subtly than the first two, in fact.
100%.
But it all works, and I thought it was incredibly beautiful. Not very scary, but if you're squeamish, there's you get your blood and a little bit of gore. Um, and for anybody who is an avid Stephen King reader, it's Salem's Lot on an island. It's Salem's Lot on an island plus some, and I mean that in the best way possible.
I would say that's true, but I think it's far deeper and more
Yes.
impactful than Salem's Lot, in my opinion. Because Salem's Lot is a simple story, but this is so complex in theme and subtext.
Yeah.
It's just this
Get your number two. Get your number two.
I'm sorry. No, you do your number 2 because you did number 3. So you do
Okay.
your number 2.
Okay. We'll get back to Midnight Mass.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay. So my number 2, very close to number 1. Julia, I hope I pronounced her name correctly. Julia Ducournau, Titane. I was talking to you about this movie, about how absolutely absurd that this movie could be with its weird premise and how it's going to be overrated. I'm not kidding. This movie was a fever dream for me. Like it was, it was so weird. And when we watch, I'll say the weird thing, like because it really didn't have a whole lot to do with the film, but it's a movie that is about a woman who gets impregnated by a car, and you're watching it and you're trying to figure out where exactly this is going, and it it turns into a completely different movie. Funny enough, it starts off like a straight up thriller. You're following this woman, a lot of violent things are happening. All of a sudden she's pregnant from a car, and now she's dealing with the consequences of that, and you're like, what is going on? And you expect, like movies today, you expect it to explain to you what's going on, and it's like, it's not important. Like, move on. So, and then about halfway through the movie, it completely shifts gears and it becomes the most heartwarming family drama of the year. And I really mean it. Like, I feel weird talking about it. Did you see this yet?
No.
Okay. No.
I plan on watching it. It's just when I read what it was about, I was like, of course Dillon wants to see it.
I know, because I like weird shit. I know. But here's the thing. Agatha Roussel plays Alexia, who's the lead. She starts off the movie incredibly cold. She's heartless. At any time there's a potential for human connection, it ends in violence and like really gruesome, really fucked up violence. You have another character played by Vincent Linden, who is named Vincent, who is a father who lost a son. And you see these two characters come together along with this weird vehicular pregnancy, and you're like, what the fuck am I watching? And I'm not kidding. I think I texted you. I think I texted you right when it was over, and I was like, I don't know what the fuck I just watched, but I felt all of it.
You did. You did. I just love that you'd never expect to hear those words in a sentence. This vehicular pregnancy.
So, in a lot of ways, here's a couple things, because I'm not going to get spoilery, but I'm going to kind of explain how it felt. Her kind of journey on what's
Painful,
kind of growing inside her felt a lot to me like what Jeff Goldblum is going through in The Fly. And what I mean by that is these things are like, of course they're metaphorical, but in Jeff Goldblum's case, you're watching from his wife's perspective, you're watching him get more engaged into his work, and outside of all the physical kind of discrepancies, he's becoming a monster. Like he's becoming cold to her, he's treating her poorly, and then he's physically becoming a monster. It's a similar thing here. Everything that she's going through has to do with kind of who she is.
Does she become a car?
I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you anything.
To give birth
Um,
to a car, must she become a
I
car?
will say, also, this has. I'm not very squeamish. I tend to really enjoy a lot of violence in a lot of movies. This movie had me wincing. There is a scene where a character performs nose surgery on themselves, and I felt like I had to look away.
Nose
The
surgery? Oh God.
the body horror in this movie is intense. Like there is some intense, messed up stuff that you see on the screen, and then it's offset with beautiful human connection and this group of people trying to figure out what their life is like now that they've been separate from others for so long. And you're watching it and you're like, I'm sitting there like thinking none of this should work because it's so absurd. Like it's
Yeah.
absurd, it's bizarre, it's fucking weird.
But
But
that makes it even more impressive,
that
right?
makes it
Like
even
the
more impressive because
yeah.
it was I don't hate to say it because it is the movie's beautiful. Like it was really wonderful.
I believe you. You have
And
good taste, so I
yeah,
believe
that's
you.
the most
I
I can
will
say
watch it.
without going to spoilers. So I hope you watch it. I hope anyone who listens watches it
I promise I
because
will watch Titane.
it's not for the squeamish. It is very violent. It's outside of everything I've said. It's nothing that you'll expect, but somehow it
Okay.
all works.
And that was your number two.
That was my number two.
Oh man, I love that it moved up to two and knocked other things down. That's
I know.
awesome. Because
Yeah, it
for you
almost took
guys,
number one.
yeah, for you guys and gals that don't know, he's been saying he wanted to watch this movie Titane, and I'm like, I have no idea what movie you're talking about. And he's like, you should look it up. And when I read it, I was like, oh god, and he just started laughing.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah. Okay, so my number two is actually a film that was on my list, but it wasn't like the ones that I felt like I needed to see, and then I was just in a mood this weekend
Hmm.
and I couldn't figure out what I wanted to see, and I was like, why not? So I watched The Tragedy of Macbeth with
Ooh,
Denzel Washington,
yep.
it just came out on Apple TV, I believe, is where it is.
That's how you saw it. I was like, wait, you
Yeah,
can watch that? Oh, we were
yeah,
talking about this earlier. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Uh, and one of the other things that I thought was interesting about it, I didn't look up at all who wrote and directed it. It is written and directed by Joel Cohen of the
Mm-hmm.
Coen brothers, and he wrote and directed this one himself.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it is the story of Macbeth. And to put this in perspective, I oh, by the way, I forgot. I said Denzel Washington. It also has Frances McDormand and
Mm-hmm.
Brendan Gleeson, and a few pretty great
I
people.
love Brendan Gleeson.
Who doesn't, right? It's
Yeah.
awesome. Um, and it also has Corey Hawkins. If you don't know who that is, he also
Mm-hmm.
played Dr. Dre in Straight Outta
Mm-hmm.
Compton, and he's also been in a few things like 24, etc. Um, but what's interesting about this film to me is I'm actually shocked that it's number two on my list because, in high school you have to read Shakespeare,
Yeah.
and we read Romeo and Juliet and Hamlet. I thought Romeo and Juliet was okay.
Those
I liked
crazy kids.
yeah, everybody who says that's the greatest love story of all time, like, so you've never been in love. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, really, really, these like teenagers that know nothing are in love for like 3 days, and then one commits suicide, and then the other.
Yep.
It's like, dude, they're just a bunch of idiots. Like, what are you
Yep.
talking about? Anyway, but then like I'm like, but then Hamlet I liked.
Mm-hmm.
And then Macbeth was actually, I thought Romeo and Juliet was okay.
Mm-hmm.
Macbeth was actually my least favorite Shakespearean, just because I found Macbeth and his wife so unlikable that I'm not rooting for them, and I'm almost hoping they fail, and I'm just watching this kind of train wreck the entire time
Mm-hmm.
with characters I just really don't care about, right?
Mm-hmm.
I thought the Three Witches were kind of interesting, but overall it just wasn't a story that was for me. I loved this movie, and the visual imagery of how he portrays some things,
Mm-hmm.
hands down, by the way, best cinematography of the year. Like, I don't think there's anything that will come close. Like, I'm
Wow.
convinced it doesn't matter what else I see. I don't think it'll come close, and it's in black and white.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some shots in this that are not just beautiful; they look like black and white paintings. And like he
Yeah.
does some things artistically. There is a scene. There is a scene where the three witches, wink, wink, are played by like one person,
Mm-hmm.
and it's almost like he's speaking for multiple people. And then there's a scene where he puts on this cape and he's standing near the water, and as he's standing up, there's a reflection that splits in two downward into the water, so it looks like three witches are standing next to each other. It is so cool,
Ah.
and that's just one of many many things. Like it is so cool. Like I'm serious. Like I was literally like, this is like a master class on a shot list and cinematography. Like for anybody that's a filmmaker, you want to learn and this is black and white, and these are clearly sets, but this should give you an idea of how you say you're not good at color grading. Learn how to control a black and white palette with light and shadow, and you can do some freaking interesting things. Like it is
Hmm.
it's phenomenal. And the performances are great. It took me about 20 minutes to fully like get into it because it's been a while since I've read Shakespeare. So like they're speaking in the Shakespearean dialect and everything. So it's
Yeah.
like I kind of understand what's being said, but it's a lot of you have to really focus. And then after about 20
Hmm.
minutes, you kind of get used to it, and then it got smoother and smoother. It's almost like how I felt about The Witch. The accents
Right.
were so
Right.
thick that I'm not really. But then
Yeah.
by about 20, 30 minutes in, all of a sudden I just suddenly that feeling of hard to understand just was gone, and I'm like, I'm fine now. Like it's like
Yep.
your mind,
Yep.
it's like your mind just takes time to get the blueprint, and then it just starts putting
Hmm.
things together. And I haven't read any Shakespeare in quite a while, so yeah, it took me some time to get into it, but yeah, and then the visual imagery and the presentation of everything just made it fantastic. I mean, um, and Frances McDormand is fucking great too. Uh,
Always.
yeah, always, right? Yeah, always.
Hmm.
Yeah, but like
Always.
it is phenomenal. And I would actually have to say direction and presentation actually outshine performances, even though Denzel Washington and Frances McDormand are great. It's so
Yeah.
stunning that the
Yeah.
presentation is, like I said, I'm not even into Macbeth, but it was so the perspective that I got of it. I've never seen anything like it from Macbeth, and it is beautiful. I could watch it again, even though it's a story I don't really like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which to me is that's more impressive when it's a story I'm not into, and you made me love this movie. Like that's yeah. So yeah, I can't say enough good things about it. It was very very good.
I've been waiting patiently to do my trial for Apple TV, and maybe I gotta dive into
Yeah, so you could die, so you could just like watch everything at once, right?
Yep,
Just like
yep. Awesome. I'm so happy that was good. The Coen brothers are some of my favorite directors. So
I know.
we just had another situation of Lily and Lana separating. We got Lana's Matrix, and that, well, that went a certain way. But hearing that Joel Cohen, it's Joel that made this one, right?
Larry. Sorry.
Ethan?
No,
Joel or
no, no,
Ethan made this one?
no. It's Joel. Sorry.
It's
Did I say
Joel.
Larry? Because
Yeah, I was like, the
Larry and
long
Lana. I'm
lost
sorry.
brother.
Lana Wachowski. Because you said Lana, and I think
Yeah,
it may be Larry. I'm so sorry. Yeah,
it's okay.
whatever. Yeah, Joel.
uh,
My mind just went beep.
yeah,
Sorry.
I'm excited to hear that him separating and doing a project on his own without Ethan still is
It was
looking pretty beautiful.
fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Because when it said Joel
awesome.
Cohen, I was like, well, where's Ethan? I'm like, they always do things together, right? I'm like, is this just Joel? I was like, wow, like this is
Yeah,
fantastic. Like now I'm worried. I'm like, am I gonna see Ethan? And it's gonna be terrible. And it's like, it was always Joel, and we didn't
yep.
know. No, I'm joking. No, I'm joking. It's probably. I'm sure Ethan's gonna be great if he does one. So,
All right, I kind of want to do my number one first because I want to
do.
save your
Yeah.
takes on Midnight Mass for the
No,
end.
no, yeah. Go right ahead. Yeah.
My number one's not a surprise to you. Cause it really, I actually thought it would change, but it didn't from the very beginning of the year, and it was on your honorable mention list, and it was Pig from
Oh
Michael
my God,
Sarnowski.
it's
It
your
is
number
my
one.
number one movie this year for a
Wow,
lot
that's
of
awesome.
reasons.
That's awesome.
So if you saw the trailer for this movie, you saw a trailer for a thriller. Um, I want my pig
Lies,
back.
lies.
That's when you saw the trailer, you see him like gritty
Yeah.
behind the shoulder Shaw, where's my pig?
Mhm.
We all
They
know
made
what
it seem
John Wick
like it was
is.
John Wick with a pig.
Yeah.
That's what they
What I
made
did not expect was a heartfelt buddy comedy. What I got was a heartfelt buddy comedy.
You're kind of
But
right,
a
actually.
couple things more important than that. I have loved Nicolas Cage for a long time, and I still do.
Yes, you do.
Um, I think a lot of times he can put in bad performances. I also think a lot of his performances are misunderstood, and I really think that he puts expressionism in front of kind of grounded performances a lot of the time. And
Hmm.
in sometimes it works. And things like
Mandy,
I mean, his classics like Face Off and
I
those
loved.
big, huge performances, like they work sometimes. Sometimes they don't.
Face Off
This
is one of
one,
my favorite action movies from the '90s, by the way.
oh yeah, for sure. But then, there are his really grounded performances like Leaving Las Vegas and this and Pig. Um, not only did I love his character, but I loved so much of what his character was representing through this entire movie, and it was very touching to me. A couple scenes that stood out. Um, Probably my favorite scene in the movie is a conversation he has with an ex student of his who's become a successful chef in the middle of the city.
That's my
He's
favorite scene.
yeah, it's very easy for that to be your favorite scene, but he says a couple things in that scene that I think were really touching, and he's giving a
Yeah.
great performance the whole time. He's this person may just to circle back for a second, the film is about he's robbed in the beginning of the movie, and
Hmm.
what's taken from him is his truffle pig. What his business is he uses this pig to scavenge and forage for truffles that he then sells to a middleman who he works with, who brings those truffles to his connections and his father's connections in the restaurant industry. Right?
Hmm.
He used to be a world renowned chef, but the way that the industry treated him, he decided to become a recluse. He decided to go live in the woods by himself with his animal because that's where he found happiness. Now that's been taken away from him, and he needs to enter this world again of chefs.
I have something I want to say when you're done too.
Yeah, yeah. To find this pig again. And there's a scene where he is meeting with an ex student of his who now owns an incredible restaurant. And it's a lead on where his pig is. He knows this guy knows where's my pig. And he won't tell him where the pig is. So Nicolas Cage needs to have a conversation with this guy. And he says, what do you serve here? Like what is this restaurant? What's the concept? And he says, well, we take local ingredients and we try to make it feel foreign and alien, and we try
We
to make it
deconstruct it.
deconstruct it and make it exciting. He says, well, do you like doing that? And he's like, everybody loves it. This is great. He said, okay, do you like cooking it? And he's like, the critics, it's a success. This is a huge success. And I remember seeing this scene, and I actually think there's a little bit of overacting going on in this scene, but I love the dialogue. And he basically told him, he said, what was your dream? If I remember correctly, your dream was to open a pub. What dish did you want to cook? And immediately the person he's talking to remembers the dish that he wants to cook. And he
It was like
says,
a Scotch egg with
yeah,
something.
Scotch egg with a glaze or something along the lines. And he looks at me and says, none of this is real. He says, the people, your patrons, your customers who come in, they don't care about you. These critics don't matter. You know, we get, and what stuck with me is he says, we get so few things to care about. You know what I mean? And he's
Hmm.
talking to someone who left this all behind. He says, every day you're going to lose a little bit more of yourself. You're going to lose a little bit more time trying to find success instead of focusing on what makes you happy.
Yeah,
You
to
know,
people who don't care about you.
to people who don't care. And I think all of us relate to getting caught up in that because it's
For
so
sure.
easy to have to survive. We have to make money. You know what I
Yep.
mean? And then it's exhausting to have to make money. It's
Hmm.
exhausting to have responsibility. So by the end of the day, we don't have time to do the things that we love to do. You know what
I
I mean?
slowly. Yep.
And every single day that we decide not to, that we decide to lean into those things where we try to find success, we lose a little bit of ourselves and we don't have time to do that.
Yep.
So those themes mixed with this story, mixed with that performance, going to that ending, which was also really beautiful in its own right, that I'm not going to talk about because I
Yeah,
hope
that
people
was
see
my
this
other. That
movie.
was my other favorite scene. I won't
From
say. I won't
from a
say.
first time director, I remember walking out of this movie blown away. Like I did not expect to love it the way I did, and now it's the next year, and I still can't stop thinking about it. Like I browse by it all the time, like I gotta watch Pig again. I've watched it a couple times, and I loved it. I cannot wait to see what this director does next. And I think this director not only got the right actor in Nicolas Cage, but also just let him create a character out of it. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? It seemed really hands off, and there are a few kind of like big ish, not so much Nicolas Cage moments, but what Nicolas Cage does with this character is beautiful. And I think it
Hmm.
fit in this really beautiful movie that has a backdrop of amazing cuisine and cooking.
For
And
sure.
now I want to watch it again. So
and
that's
I
my
also
honorable.
and I also like what you find out about the truffles later too, and the
Yeah,
pig and everything. I like
yeah,
that.
exactly. I don't want to spoil that because that was a pretty
No,
big moment.
that's
Yeah.
why I won't say. But one thing you did mention. Uh, so I think I might have gotten a different of a opinion, or maybe just a misunderstanding. But you've seen it twice, so you're probably right. But you said that he got kind of fed up with the industry and walked away. I thought that there were hints that he left because he lost his wife or the woman that he loved
Right. So,
because of the moment that he goes to the place and she's like, I have a spot for him.
mhm.
Like I kind of thought that he was loving it, and when he lost her, he lost his passion for. Like that's kind of what I thought, but I could be wrong.
Yes, no,
Um,
absolutely. But even past that, he never decides to go back to it because he decides
that's
that
true.
he
Yeah.
has closeness in a relationship that he can care
Hmm.
about. And reflecting, he could have
Yeah.
gone back to that, and he decided not to
Yeah.
because he can do what would fulfill him and make him happy, even if it's frowned upon or shunned.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, the only thing he seems to enjoy is certain things, and
Yeah.
also like the tapes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
also the direction they kind of took the restaurant industry was really surreal. You know
It's
what I mean?
hilarious.
It was
It's like
hilarious and fascinating to explore and weird, you know?
Mafia meets Fight Club. You're like,
Yeah,
what the
exactly. You're like, what? They're like, oh shit,
It's
he's
like we're dealing
back.
with Tony Soprano over
Yeah.
here, and then there's Fight Club down below, and you're
But
like,
you
what
know
the
what?
fuck?
If you've ever worked in a restaurant, fuck man, you need to let out some energy. You know what I mean? Like it is intense. It
That's
is
the reason why.
intense.
It's the reason why I love them. But my dream of being a chef changed. I was like, if I get rich, I'll have a restaurant that has like 80% of my recipes or 70% of my recipes, but the other 30% are whoever the head chef is that I hire.
Yeah.
So that they can have some on the menu as well, and I'll have a manager run it, not me, because I was like, I don't want to do
Yeah. Yeah.
that.
But just before you get into Midnight Mass,
No, of course, yeah.
and by extension, this is just getting into kind of how I look at life, and I think about this pretty often these days. I think about
Hmm.
just kind of day to day moments and weighing them in importance to work that you do for hopefully a better future. You know what I mean? So
Yes,
I think
yes,
if you have a great day amongst friends, how much is that worth as far as your time sacrificed to do something you don't enjoy? You know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
And I don't, of course, there's no right answer and it's different for everybody, but I find as many of those moments you can create, even if they're just like in your house, whether it be sitting alone or sitting with somebody or whatever brings you fulfillment, whatever that one thing is, that is the most important thing. And there's
Hmm.
times to pause and not worry about what you're going to have to do tomorrow, because you can get caught in a loop where that is all you will think about. And that drive can be positive and passionate, and you can really drive the bus in that way. But it's not new to say you will miss so much on what could be incredibly fulfilling moments along the way. And that this movie
100%.
nailed that for me.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think people like to generalize it by saying things like, "Oh, a work-life balance," and it's a lot deeper than that.
Yeah.
It's
It's just appreciation. It's just
yeah,
finding moments to, you know, I really value being able to have the human experience, whatever that
for
means
sure.
for me, whatever that
Yeah,
means for everybody else. I value the highs and the lows and being able to feel those things.
for sure.
So I think about it often. And like I said, Pig nailed that feeling in a movie, and I haven't seen it nailed that way in a while. So I can't wait to see more from this guy.
You're such a good guy.
No,
You
you.
are. You are such a good guy, bro.
Hey, thanks.
Well, so my number one, I mean, we already kind of talked about it. It's Midnight Mass, but for me, I would say similar to how you feel about Pig. That's actually one of the reasons Midnight Mass is so big for me, because the subtext of this series. Um, you said something that I found interesting, because it's probably the only thing I've disagreed with you on all night. You
Mm-hmm.
had quit you when you were talking about Midnight Mass. You had said it's not very scary,
Mm-hmm.
and it isn't supernaturally, but
Mm-hmm.
to me, what happens on that island is terrifying. Like
Mm-hmm.
to me, what happens, and that's the point of the story. So for me, that's more terrifying than anything I could have seen with the monster or the entity. Um, in a lot of ways, it's about many things, but a huge part of that is the horrors of an ideologue. And what I find interesting is there's more than one ideologue, but there tends to be one true ideologue by the end of the film. And
Mm-hmm.
I think the brilliance of the writing was having an ideologue, um, and you need a counterpart to that. And the counterpart to an ideologue is a pragmatist.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, you have pragmatists in the story, and you have ideologues, and then you have people on varying degrees of those opposites. And what I think the show does spectacularly, and in my opinion, some might agree, but in my opinion, quite honestly,
Mm-hmm.
is it takes a supernatural, horrific situation, and it tackles it from the perspectives of varying religious, psychological, and from various religious and psychological viewpoints, right? Um, and I guess philosophical too. So you have people that have varying beliefs on this island. They're isolated from the world. This thing is happening, and essentially, it's about how do all of these people deal with it, and also how do all of these people see it. It has some very similar things, themes to Don't Look Up, but it's taken a lot more seriously, and I would say a lot more honestly, because even some of the people who by the end of the film you might see as the villains of the film, uh, none of them are
or at least most of them, aren't they're not frauds, or at least they don't believe themselves to be. They believe
Hmm.
what's happening wholeheartedly. Like they're completely consumed by belief to the point where they genuinely believe they're helping everyone. You know what I mean? There's
Hmm.
nothing about them that's disingenuous. So like I think as the third person, as the viewer, you can be fairly certain that they're wrong, but there's nothing about the character that seems shady or dishonest, at least most of them. There's one that I think we all love
Right.
to hate, and
Yep.
I'll just say that the actor who plays this character, I think this person was phenomenal, because I think by the end of the second episode I hated
Yes.
this woman. Like
Yep.
I hated her more than I hated her more than I hated Homegirl and I Care a Lot. Like, and
Yeah.
that's saying
Yeah.
something. And then there's a scene in a school where the question is not answered, it's circumvented, and then the person proceeds to do it anyway. And I was
Yep.
just like,
Yep.
oh my god, this person is my
And it
villain.
happens twice.
And it happens twice,
Yeah.
dude. No, three times technically if you think about the ending, because
Oh, right.
everyone
Yep.
gets fucked because it happens to
Yep.
the nth degree. Like
Yep.
it's like,
Yep.
and the worst part is, I feel like the film covers so many aspects of life, including blind belief. And this isn't to insult religion, because I believe blind belief in anything can be destructive. It's not
Hmm.
just religion. It could be an ideology. It could be just a simple philosophical viewpoint. Logic in and of itself, I am a patron of logic. But for instance, if you are 100% logical, that's destructive too.
Yep.
Why do you think Skynet exists in movies? Because
Yep.
logically, if a machine had in charge of all the weapons and it analyzed us, it would probably be like, you're awful, you're a virus, to save the planet I kill you and we're all good. And that's probably true. Like, you
Right.
know what I mean? So it's like everything in excess for the most part is destructive. I mean, and that's true with drugs, it's true with food, it's true with everything. Same thing with ideology. And an ideologue is essentially, in my opinion, they're like an addict of a belief, in a way.
Hmm.
So it's like the pragmatist is the counter to that. So what I like about the film, the series, is it's very realistic in terms of, if you go through history, this is true about history too. It doesn't matter if there's a few people that are right. Ultimately, if you fail at convincing everyone of something, you all burn together. Like that. That is
Hmm.
just how it is. And I think the way this movie handles all that in a creepy Stephen King-esque way is truly. I didn't expect to say this. I think it's beautiful. I think it is
Hmm.
superbly written. The performances are masterful. The direction, I think, is the best I've ever seen from the director and writer.
Hmm.
Um, and also the film really touched me because when I was about 21, I was raised Christian, and I always had issues. I didn't quite know, but I really wanted to know the truth. So I spent a year actually studying pretty much every religion that exists, including ones that don't anymore, like Zoroastrianism. But I read about Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Mormonism, Jehovah's Witness, Scientology. Uh, everything you can think of, including like philosophies like Confucianism and stuff. And by the end of
Hmm.
it, I thought that I was going to be reading all of them to find out which one's right. Um, and by the end of it, I actually found that I didn't believe any of them, um, like at least not completely. Um,
Hmm.
and I ended up being very depressed for about 6 months. And that was when I realized, oh, I guess some part of me wanted to believe one of them, more than even
Hmm.
I realized, right? Um, but then I started reading a lot of things about, like, I had my own thoughts on life. Like, if this isn't true, then maybe nothing matters and all this stuff. But then you start reading things like existentialism and things, and that stuff really hit me because I agree with it, like wholeheartedly. Like,
Hmm.
you can argue that the universe is uncaring and nothing really matters, but the power in that is, that's true. But
Hmm.
that means anything that you decide matters. So
Hmm.
because it matters to you, it matters, and there's nothing that can take that away. That's a fact, right?
Hmm.
And I find that interesting. And there are also really interesting aspects of the universe if you decide to look at the universe like one organism, or one, like, there's just facets of it. And there's a character towards the end of this who is, I don't want to spoil it, but I'll just say something is happening in the final episode to this character. And someone asks her what someone asks this person what they think happens when we die. And like, all of the reading I've done, like, I've had conversations with my friends about this for like the last 4 or 5 years, some of my other friends. And I have never seen someone sum up a majority of what I think in like a movie so perfectly. And like some of the things I think might be the case are a mixture of, multiple things that I've read. And so some of my friends are like, "Hey, you're crossing some things," and I'm like, "Yeah, but I mean, I could totally see any of that being true, And
Mm-hmm.
a person forms all of it so beautifully in this moment. It was one of the most touching things I've ever seen in my life, and I was like, I couldn't agree more. Like, I was
Yeah.
just like, and I loved it. I loved everything that it says philosophically. I love the sort of parable that it's kind of placing. Um, be careful. It's
Mm-hmm.
giving you things to watch out for, and I think they're very, very adamant things if you're looking at what's happening in society now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, I just think it's a masterpiece. I genuinely do, and I didn't expect that. I think you reminded me it was out. Like I just heard he was
Mm-hmm.
working on something, and you reminded me it was out, and I was like, oh, I guess I'll watch that. And I
Yeah.
remember I couldn't stop, and yeah, I I still think about it. I love it. It is probably one of my favorite projects. It's my favorite project of the year. It's probably one of my favorite projects in the last 5 years. So I really, really enjoyed it.
Hell yeah. I
Midnight
can
Mass on Netflix. Mike Flanagan.
check it out. Man, we actually saw a lot of movies this year.
We did. I saw more classics than new ones, unfortunately, but I still need to see a lot more. So
Yeah, I know.
it's hard to keep up.
I was building my haven't seen list. I was like, oh, this is getting long.
I know. That's why I just said 3. I'm like, oh, bro, there's at least 7 more.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, it's hard to
Yeah.
keep up though. There's so many studio films, indie films, foreign films. Like there's so
Mhm.
many. Like now you have hundreds of movies that come out every year. It's so hard. Like there's no way you can see them all.
Yeah. Well, I think this was an excellent 2021 wrap up, and I will say 2022 is starting strong. We both saw the new Scream.
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
It was a lot of fun. And I think
you liked it even more than I did, which is kind of funny. Like
I did actually. I
because
saw
I'm
it
the Scream
twice.
fanatic. You saw it again?
Yeah.
Did you really?
I dragged Jasmine to see it. I was like, you
How
gotta
did she
see
like
this
it?
movie. She liked it. She
Yeah.
also called out a couple plot hole things that we talked
Yeah.
about. But
Yeah.
after I watched it the second time, believe it or not, it's my second favorite in the series. I don't know.
Yeah, some people say that. Yeah.
I think it just comes
Maddie.
down to
I love Maddie. She's my favorite.
Yeah. I think it just came down to, man, I haven't seen that fun of a horror movie in a long time, and it calls out in the beginning. It's along the lines of, what's a elevated horror movie? That doesn't sound very scary, or that doesn't sound very fun. Then you watch this movie, and it's like all the other Screams. It's having a blast the entire time, and then in the background, it's also really gruesome. So it follows that same plot, but I just had a blast. Though looking at it constructively, I'm like, this isn't as strong as some of the other ones. I'm like, I'm just having too much fun with this movie.
Okay, first of all, it's way stronger than Scream 3. Like,
yes,
that's all I'm saying.
Yes, it is.
Because Scream 3 was just a misfire. So, yeah, I would say I liked it about as much as Scream 4. I don't know if I'd put it in front or behind Scream 4. But the point is, I thought it was pretty fun. I guess some of my gripes are just I feel like they're kind of severe, but there's enough about it that's good that I still enjoyed it. That's the best way to put it. So yeah, I liked it though. Yeah, so it's cool.
If this is the type of stuff we're getting in January, I can't wait to see what the rest of the year
me too
brings us along. But Fortune, it has been a blast. Happy 2022. Here's to another year of awesome movies and Cinescussion.
I agree, man. Dillon, it's always good. It was good to see the top 10 of your top 10. It was really fun to be here with each other. And while we're on the subject, Dillon, hey, I'll be right back, bro. He's dead.
He's not gonna make it. You were right to ask.
You were right to ask, though. Yeah, that's good. That's
good. All right, everybody. My cough is taking over.
Yes, man. Get better.
Have a wonderful evening. Thank you all for listening and enjoying, and we will see you next time.
Yes, definitely, guys. I'm actually getting my booster later at the end of this month, so it'll be my turn.
Hell yeah.
All right, y'all. Have a good one. We will see you on episode 16 in a couple weeks.
Peace.
Catch you later.